Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing today, mother?
What was that?
Can you hear me?
Oh goodness. Who's is there like a mic in there? You hear that, sis?
No.
Oh, your voice is like coming through like it sounds like funny.
Oh, it sounds slow.
Yeah, it's like a little delay. Is that better? Okay. Okay. She's coming out and coming back in. Hey everybody. So today we are gonna do the cooking version. So we're gonna be cooking and we're gonna be having some real conversations like we do every week. So while my sis is getting back set, I am going to take you guys through the ingredient list of what we're gonna be cooking today. So today we are cooking shrimp creole. You back, sis?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's still that same sound.
Oh, I don't know what sound it could be though. I don't hear anything.
Yeah, it's something like with the voice. It's like almost delayed. Like the voice just sounds a little weird.
Okay. I don't
I
know.
can hear what you're saying though. I don't know. Maybe on the maybe in the settings on the audio on StreamYard.
Okay. Let me just take a look.
But I was just
All right.
gonna take them through real quick. We're gonna be making shrimp creole. Some people call it different things. This I make mine with okra and with sausage and with shrimp and corn. So I was just gonna take them through like the ingredient list of everything we're gonna be using today. And so we're just gonna be kind of going back and forth. We're gonna have the same style of doing our conversations. Of course, we're gonna talk about our real topics. And at the same time, for the first couple topics, we're going to show you like how to prep for the meal. And then at the very end, we're going to cook the meal. This is again a 15-20 minute meal that you could easily do on a weeknight. So I'm going to go ahead and take y'all through the ingredients and then we will get into our topics for today. So of course, like I mentioned, we're using okra. So this is just frozen okra that we're going to pick. Hey, Bree, that we're going
Hello,
to
hello.
use today. And then we're going to also use sausage. I like to
Thank
use andouille sausage in most of my recipes, but I also, when I can't get andouille, I love to use zumos. And those add a lot of flavor and give you kind of that same effect as andouille sausage. It's just not as smoked as andouille sausage. And then I'm going to show you guys, if I can flip my camera here, I'm going to show you guys I'm going to show you guys the seasonings that we're going to be using today. So these are like kind of my staple seasonings, and we're going to use this in the meal, in the food, as well as to marinate our shrimp. So chicken fajita seasoning, I love this one. I typically get this at like HEB or Kroger's. I like this one because it has like all your seasonings in it. So it has salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, all those things. Paprika, I like this one myself. It kind of gives it a little bit of that smoky flavor. And since we're going to be missing that smokiness from the andouille sausage, that's going to be good. I like to use blackened seasoning. Of course, some parsley. I also really like this Vanilla Complete seasoning. This is another one that has lots of herbs. It has dried parsley. Again, it has the onion powders, the garlic powder. It has some minced garlic in there. And then, of course, Old Bay. You got to use Old Bay with your seafood. And then we're going to use a little bit of cayenne pepper just to give it that kick. So those are the seasonings we're going to be using. I showed you guys the sausage already. And then this is the shrimp. I just have my shrimp over here kind of thawing in the sink. And these are Gulf shrimp. I think I've told you guys, if you watched my channel before, I've talked about how I do not like farm-raised shrimp. To me, they don't have any taste. So we're going to be using those Gulf shrimp. And so the closest place, we're thankful here in Houston, we are close to the Gulf of Mexico. And so we go out to like Galveston, it's actually called Kima, and we just buy bulk. Like we'll buy 75 pounds of shrimp, and then we come back home because it's about an hour drive for us. And then we come back home and just bag it up and put it off in the freezer. But to me, those shrimp absolutely have the best taste because they're fresh Gulf shrimp. Again, farm raised, it's not my thing. Some people like them, it can make them taste good, but I like fresh Gulf shrimp. So we're going to get right into it. My sister is having a couple technical difficulties. So
No,
I'm going to
here.
show you guys how I do the prep work for my for this meal. So I'm going to show you guys some of the like prep work that I do, and then hopefully we'll be able to get like right into the topics after that.
Can you hear me?
The things we're planning to talk about today. Yeah, I can hear you, sis. It's coming weird. It's like slow. Yeah, so I can hear you and I can hear what you're saying. It's just like almost delayed or something like that. I don't know if it's the mic.
I think everybody else can hear me pretty clearly.
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just like really, it's like delayed and like a deep, deep voice. I don't know. Maybe try it without your headphones.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you guys like this sausage pattern. I know you guys can see my cutting board here. I'm just going to flip my camera around so you guys can see it. So this again is totally like preference, how you want to slice your sausage. So I do mine. I like mine. Then of course I have kids, so I'm cooking this meal like it's lunch for the kids. So I like to do my sausage into fours. Some people like medallions, and that's totally fine. Again, this is all like preference, just on how you like your sausage to be cut. So I'm going to show you guys just how I slice like 1 to 2 of them. And I'm calling my son to hold the camera for me because it's pretty hard to slice with one hand. But I'm just going to show you guys how I get the sausage all sliced up, and then we can start going to making this meal. So of course the sausage is going to be the base for our meal here. Like I said, a lot of times I use andouille sausage, but when I can't find andouille, Zumos is just as good. Yes, come on.
It's looking good.
So I'm having my son just to hold the camera here so I can show you guys. So I like to, like I said, I like to do mine like kind of into four. So I slice the sausage one time, and then I come back and I slice it again, just across. So it's like medallions, but half medallions. And the best way to slice sausage, really to slice any sort of meat, is when it's like almost frozen. And you just want to get kind of that thaw off of it. It makes it very easy, like to slice and to chop. If you notice, my half medallions are like very like straight edge. It's because the meat is very, very cold and like literally almost a frozen. So that's the best position to type any type of to cut any type of meat. And so I'm just going to show you guys the other side of me slicing the sausage. And then hopefully we'll be able to maybe get into some topics. Shout out to the people in the comments. Shout out Bree. Sis, you having any luck on your sign there? On your sound there?
No, it's not my sound. It's your sound. You can't hear me because maybe your headset is slowing it down. Everybody else can hear me.
You said everybody else can hear you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead, sis. Maybe it's me. So maybe I'll come. Let me come out. If everybody else can hear you okay, I'm going to leave out and come back in.
Hey, hey, hey,
Okay.
Mr. Canadian-born Nigerian, welcome. So before we get in, um, until we get back, like some of the seasons she had black. What did she say? Blackened seasoning, parsley, Old Bay, cayenne pepper, chicken fajita. There's a couple more seasons. I'll tell her to go back breed when she comes back. So, and I'll go back through that. Make sure you have your notepad ready. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, but it's like it's the same. But if everybody else can hear it okay, then it's good.
Okay. Okay. Bree said go back over that seasoning one more time.
Okay, I can't hear the last part. Yeah, let me try to go out and come back here one more time.
All right. So just once again, Mr. Sean and Mother coming to you and Wind Down with Real Women. Today we're going to go over a recipe, shrimp Creole. We'll be touching base on physical and mental health. We'll talk about some boundaries and blended families. So guys, just stay tuned as we get through this delicious meal as she prepares it, and get your questions ready because we want to make sure that we're answering your questions and we're interactive with you. So it's always a pleasure to come on here and give our perspective on life, love, and marriage and all of those great things. All right. You muted, baby.
That was me, sis. I guess I never thought about this. I guess it was me because really it was sounding that way. So I'll do the volume on here. Bring my phone up here. I'll do the volume on here, and then I'll try my best to get this lifted so I can show you guys what I'm doing. But I already told you guys kind of how I'm putting up the sausage. So I'm going to pop up my Zumo sausage, and I see Bree said, so thank you for putting that ingredient list in the comments. So one thing that she made was this Vandia complete thing. And y'all, this is what the house commercials say, I put this shit on everything. Literally, I just it's so good. It
By complete seasoning.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it has your garlic powders, your onion powders. It has minced garlic, parsley, kind of all those things in there. So this is literally a one-stop shop seasoning. So this is the one that Bree said she made. And then while we're kind of getting through this first segment, I'm just going to be chopping up my Zumo sausage. And I talked a little bit about how I chop mine. So of course the links come out like this. And then we're going to, and again, it's a preference thing. So I cut mine up into half medallions just because it's easier for me and for my kids as they're eating. But it's definitely up to you. Some people like to just cut them as medallion, which is like the round circles that you usually see. So anyway, I'm just going to get through cutting this sausage up, and then as I move the next phase, we'll kind of take a break from our conversation, and I'll show you how I do that. So we're going to get right to it.
So I introduced, what we're going to be talking about today, physical and mental health, touching on boundaries and blended family. So, one of the things I wanted to highlight today is kind of go back into the boundaries thing. How do you feel that your boundaries in your marriage or work, when have somebody tested your boundaries? That's the question I'm gonna ask today. When do you feel like people have tested your boundaries?
Sometimes it's all the time. And thank goodness for healing and praise God, because we and like I said, and I've told y'all that was I could just call it my one toxic trait because it covered everything. It wasn't in my mind. I didn't feel like I was mean or any of those things. I just felt like again, I told y'all this I can't be fucked up. So the thing was, and I said it like that. I know it's kind of funny that way, but the thing was when people would cross my boundaries, or well, first of all, it was somewhat on me because I wasn't setting clear boundaries. And it was like, I expect people to know that, that you shouldn't be doing that. That's a boundary that you should cross. But I was not clearly and direct setting clear boundaries. So that was the first part of the problem. And then the second part of the problem is when people would cross those boundaries, I would get upset because in my mind, I'm thinking you should know better. Like that's out of line. That's a boundary that you shouldn't have crossed. And so at that point, you getting cussed out, you getting cut off, and I'm just done with you. I was a big part of the cutoff crew. Like it didn't matter who you were. And so, like I said, thankfully through therapy, healing, I think a lot of it too had to do with maturity and just really gaining perspective, and being able to look at different perspectives. I figured out that the problem really started with me and setting clear boundaries. So, like I said, once I did a lot of that work, I was able to now set clear boundaries, whether that was with family, even my mom, we talked about how I had to really set boundaries with her, whether that was friends, whether that was professionally. I had to start really setting clear boundaries. And then there was still a reaction if those boundaries crossed. But that way it wasn't such a negative threat. And I didn't, because even in my mania and when I was just cutting everybody out, I would go back and I would feel bad sometimes about what I had. Deserve that, or we were doing too much. But once I set boundaries, it was just a better overall experience because now I didn't feel bad. Of course, I would let them know, like I said, it was a reaction if you crossed that boundary, but it was a more civilized conversation. And it was basically more of me letting them know, hey, this is a boundary that was crossed. I thought we had established, we had a conversation about this. And when you do that, it makes me feel X, Y, and Z. And sometimes the conversations will go well and people were receptive to that and there was an apology. But I'll be honest, it didn't always go well. And sometimes, again, I'm still growing. Sometimes people at least still listen to me cut out and cut off. But for the most part, it was able to be a good conversation because I'm a believer too. Some people, just because you heal and you grow, everybody's not there yet. And so some people just are going to be who they are, and I still cut them off because, if you're not open, you're not ready to be perspective, that was your time to be in my life. I believe that too. People come in your life for a reason and a season, and your time was just up. It was time for you to grow, time for you to move on, and time for me to move in a different direction. So I've gotten better, and like I said, I can take most of the onus for the areas where I've had a lack of boundaries. And for me, most of the issue was me not setting their boundaries. For example, especially professionally, I had to really set clear boundaries because I've been in roles where, and anybody that works in clinical, knows this, the hospital runs 24/7. So I've been in roles where I, of course, worked in the day, administration, we were Friday 9 to 5, but the hospital is running 24/7. So I've been in situations, where I'm getting calls on night shift, after midnight, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And so just making, it clear and setting professional boundaries that, hey, I'm not going to be available, during these times. Yes, when you accept certain roles, you kind of get the expectation of that you're on call 24/7. But, you have to be able to set boundaries professionally, and especially when you have, and if your current career, your current job is not a place where you can set those boundaries, then it may be time for you to look for a different place. Again, it's just about finding what works for you, or your family. I have 5 kids, 5 young children. And so that wasn't really working for me to, have a job or that I couldn't really set clear professional boundaries. And so I think to me, the biggest part of having boundaries is really clearly setting those boundaries and defining them. And that, kind of sets the tone for people, not to, and I think sometimes we assume that people know what our boundaries are, what our boundaries should be, and they don't, because we have to remember too, everybody has different boundaries. My boundary might be at 20 miles. Yours is at, you'll get 35 miles. And that's okay, because we're 2 different people, 2 different backgrounds. But I think we assume, that everybody should know, she should know that my boundary is 20 miles an hour. know, Jersey's 35. So that, that means something totally different. So I think we just have to, kind of accept some of that honest and really, be sure that clear boundaries. I just had an example of that. Like, I assume I'm not hearing you well, so I assume it's wrong with your sound. And I never even thought for a second, like, oh, it might be. I think that nature, that's just what we do. We just assume that it's other people versus, kind of doing that self, check and self-assessment. So I was funny, that was interesting to me that we had like a real life example of that just now.
Yeah.
I think it's setting clear boundaries.
Yeah, I had a situation, I think this week, noticing at my place of business, of work, about people not having professional boundaries and what that looks like for me, and deciding what I will and won't, allow to happen while I'm at work. And I think for some people, like the older generation, so there's this older generation, there's the younger generation, there's somewhere in between. And we all have different ways that we work. And so it's important for me to have, one of my friends said it on my post, life-work balance, not work-life balance, because your life comes before your job at the end of the day. Now, companies may not see it that way, but that's definitely something that I feel like has been ingrained in us, is that we should put our work before our life instead of our life before our work. And if we're not, any good to ourselves, we're not good for work, we're not good for home. It causes stress, it causes strained relationships. And some people, their life is their work, at the end of the day. That's what they enjoy doing. That's their ministry. That's what they do on a daily basis. Hey, OG Patrice, welcome. Awesome, Dre. Thank you for stopping by today. So just if you've tuned in recently, Mother is making shrimp Creole. So it's already looking good. Like, I'm already hungry. I wish I was in Houston right now. But, back to the boundaries professionally. What I found that people view work differently. I'm more laid back. I'm gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna handle my business. But when 5 o'clock comes, unless it's a special project, I'm out. I find joy in my job currently, but it is not my whole life, So when I clock in, I don't really clock in, but when I come in, I definitely want to make sure, I'm doing my job, and I leave my job at home so it doesn't creep into my house. I want to make sure that I have boundaries at work, and then clearly identify that with my leaders. Like, this is my expectation. What is your expectation? So we can have like common ground on, what those goals are going to be. So, awesome, Dre, what you say? What I find interesting is that Black women tend to be professional or respectful when dealing with white men, especially those in authority. Yet a Black man cannot say anything unless he in lockstep. Okay, I'm just going to assume, that one, my leader is not a white man.
And
so
mine is. I've had those scenarios. So now my leader is a white male. Not from America. And so I don't know if there was any race, coming into our, and they have been. But he does, but I have to see American perspective, and again, this is my opinion. A lot of racism comes from America. So people that are not from America, they're white, they don't really know racism like this. So it's not, a big thing to them. But I've had experience where I worked with, like, it wasn't a Black man, but it was a Black woman. And the experience was like, I grew a lot in the role, but I didn't have any professional boundaries. It was almost like it was an expectation of, we have to work at twice as hard as them. And she really had that mindset. And so it was like, it was expected of me to work that way too. It was expected of me not to have professional boundaries. And so I don't know if that was just my experience with her as a Black leader. But I do wonder if that's the experience with some Black leaders, because especially a lot of the folks from like that baby boomer, kind of age group, they have that mindset and they were brought up on, okay, we have to work twice as hard as them. And so that's kind of the mindset that she had. So she pushed me in those ways. And like I said, I'm not saying that it was all bad. I definitely grew, 100% in the role, but I didn't have. So that's what ultimately led to me, going down a different career path, because I had no professional boundaries. I was.
Mama, let me pause you real quick. Can you see if you can put a headset on, because it's a little choppy according to the
Okay.
comments and what I'm hearing as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can
Okay.
put my headset.
Or some wire headphones. I don't know if you gonna be able to move around with that.
I don't know. I might have to try it back online. And I'm sorry, y'all. I guess I'm having like technical difficulties today. I don't know if I'm closer. Is it still really choppy?
Yeah, it's just either the connection or maybe a headset or something. Try the headset one more time now that you're in.
Let me try that.
So as she's getting back in the loop, what I will say is that I've worked for a African American woman, Black woman. I've worked for a white male before, and in my experience is that I chose, I feel like people feel like you have to choose, and it's not necessarily about answering to the man different from a white man. I really don't change it up when I'm at work because I'm not going to switch up like that. I'm not going to code switch. I can be professional, I can be Black, and I don't really have to choose. And that's something I had to learn over a course of time when, I didn't have a lot of guidance transitioning into corporate America like that. But that's just something that I chose. That I'm not code switching. I'm not switching it up. I'm going to wear my earrings. I'm going to wear my head wrap. I am Black and I am professional at the end of the day. And that's just how I choose to carry myself when I'm at work. I show up as myself. Of course, when you are speaking to your own fellow individuals, like your other Black folks that's on the job and things like that, of course that dialogue is going to be much different if you have a good relationship. So I always make sure that I'm just being genuine and authentic on the job, because I'm not good at being two different people all the time. Can I do it? Yes, but it just doesn't feel right to my soul. So yeah, I want to stay true to me at the end of the day. So when it comes to, Black people and having white superiors, I may play the game, but not too far. It just depends on what I want out of the job and what I'm trying to accomplish. So I really don't play those games anymore like that, not professionally. Yeah. How's it sound now, Mother?
So I started it from. Oh, hang on. I started it from my.
That sounds better.
Yeah, with the AirPods.
Sounds better.
Does that sound better?
Yeah, it's not as choppy as it was.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay.
Good morning, Princess K. What the funk is this? How y'all doing this afternoon? So, yes, Black at all times, Yella, okay? Because at the end of the day, I can't wash this off, and I'm not in the business of making people feel super comfortable. If I'm competent to do my job as a leader, I respect you as my leader, and then that's as far as it goes for me. We getting this job, we getting this money, and then I'm going home, being with my family and my friends and things like that. So I said boundaries up front, and I've learned how to say my piece without making people feel small. And that's just, a skill, because you got to have tact so you can be heard. So.
Yeah.
No, I don't. Yeah, he was like the point is women speak better to their boss. I think most people speak better to their boss than their significant other. I don't think that has to do anything with a woman or a man. You're just in a different environment. So, it goes without saying sometimes you're gonna speak a little. How would you address that, mother? That women speak better to their boss than their partners.
Yeah, no, especially not me. Everybody gets the same work. If you get out of line, you're gonna get their work too. And like you said, it goes back to, and I know, and I'm not saying that to sound, I know we all have like different needs and that kind of thing, but I always do my job like, you can't be afraid to get fired. The same way I found this job, I'm gonna find another one. Exactly what y'all saw in me, another company is gonna see this. So I don't allow disrespect at work. I don't kiss ass because, like you said, at the end of the day, whoever you're reporting to, white man, black woman, whoever, they're all human, and we all put our pants on the same way, one leg at a time. So, I to me, that's not true in my case. If my husband, gets out of line, he gets disrespectful, the same way that I'm gonna respond to him, I'm gonna respond to my boss that same way.
Yeah, I think sometimes men, black men and I'm gonna say it, they have an obsession.
Go on and say it, sis.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it since they want to go there. It's cool. We'll go there. But I feel like some black men have an obsession with white power. They want that same power, and they want that same respect. And I feel like at the end of the day, we want to respect. Everybody needs the same level of respect, no matter if they're your husband, if they are your, significant other, like everybody, your children, everybody needs an equal level of respect when it comes. I don't give my husband an extra anything because he's my husband. So
thank you, sis. Hold on. Let me check Scott real quick. Scott, in the comments. So you must have clearly just got on here. So this is a cooking show. So all that lack of decorum and tacky, no, it's part of the show. It's part of the show. I'm actually cooking shrimp creole today. And so when it's gone on YouTube, you can go back to the beginning. But I'll kind of go through it with you for real quick if anybody's just joining. So I'm cooking shrimp creole today. I actually have a platform called Cooking with Mother and Her Kids. And so today we took our wind down and also the cooking series and we're putting it together. So I am cooking shrimp creole and that's what you see me doing. I'm chopping the sausage. And so that's how the flow is going to work today. So I'm going to be prepping the food as we're having these conversations. And then at the end of today's episode, we're going to put the meal together. So that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah, and most times, like Bree stated, most people behave more professionally at work, so that is normal. So I don't think men trying to get the level of their boss, they need to work on intimacy with their mates.
True.
Because at the end of the day, that closeness, that interaction, that one-on-one is a separate type of, environment. That's a different type of relationship. If anybody, like you shouldn't ever compare your boss and your mate because they just don't belong together at the same day.
Exactly.
They don't like I don't go love on my boss like that. Like
exactly.
And
it's like, in the bedroom, fellas, like, do you really want your wife to be professional and buttoned up like that?
I mean, these men talk about 50-50. So you want me to like, what you expect? That's weird. Anyway, that's weird. So that's the last I'm gonna speak to that. All I'm saying is with our husbands, if you've seen some of our other shows, we talk about submission because submission doesn't just go for one person. It goes both ways and it goes for the children as well. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're all being respectful, So we're all being respectful. We're all submitting to one to another. Both of us are faith-based. So at the end of the day, that's our perspective, and that's kind of how we go about our daily lives.
Mhm.
So I think Scott is trolling, which is fine. So what's your next
Yeah,
step? Tell us your next step and what you're getting ready to do, Mother.
exactly. Shout out to you, Scott. Thank you for be sure to like and subscribe. We're glad to have you here. All fans are welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am done with the sausage. For those of you that have been watching, I did go through like the way that I prefer to cut my sausage. So I'm done cutting that up. And I am just making like a small portion for like lunch for my family. So I didn't make a ginormous amount. So I only used 4 of the links. And I'll keep kind of showing the products because I know people are joining in and out. I do use the Zumo sausage. And so the links, I only use about 4 of the links. And so I just chop those up. And again, I do the half medallions. And I know some people like to do medallions. And again, that's totally a preference thing. So I'm now done with the sausage. So I'm just going to peel the shrimp. And I showed you guys already that I use like the Gulf shrimp because I don't like farm raised shrimp. So I'm just going to get those peeled and I'll bring those over here in a second. And so as we continue on to the next topic and conversation, I'm just going to be peeling those. And I'll show you guys my technique for peeling.
So one of the things we want to touch on was physical and mental health. Like, you are you're not a new mother, but your youngest baby is not too old. I have a 2-year-old myself, and we talked about like working on our bodies and getting, into our fitness regimen. What are some of the things or some of the steps that you are taking to kind of, reel yourself back into your health and wellness?
I have to be honest, it's hard. And we've talked about this here. I have, 5 kids, and like you said, the youngest is 8 months. So the older boys, they're 5, 6, 7, and 9. So for like almost 4 years straight, like I was pregnant. And so it was difficult to almost like, and I'll be honest, like I lost myself, being pregnant for that. And it was literally kind of back to back. So it was difficult. And I really like lost myself. And so it took a while for me to get back into like my health regimen. I used to like to spin and do cycling classes. I used to love like Soul Cycle. And so of course, when you have, now all these new responsibilities, and thankfully my husband is a trooper, but it was still like difficult. And sometimes I would feel guilty about, like taking that time out or taking that 2 hours for me to go to my Soul Cycle class. So I had to, start. Shout out to Scott down there.
Scott, now.
Scott, you don't come in on Black women like that.
Scott, I need you to adjust your tone via the chat, okay? You came in kind of strong, assuming.
Just kind of chill out, just mellow out. Look at the little recipe, We can give you some tips on how, so we both are married, but we could give you some tips on how to attract you a strong Black woman. So, just chill out, kind of listen to the show.
And he said that black men were divesting. That's Scott trying to get in where he fit in. That's what it sounds like to me.
You know how that little child that wants your attention? One of my kids are like that. He throws tantrums and that's how he gets my attention. Because, it don't matter if it's good attention or bad attention, like he just loves it. So Scott probably out there getting turned on. But it's all love, Scott. Just be sure you like and subscribe.
Yes, so I can agree with that. I said on the last show, like it took me like 2 years to kind of get my bearings back together after I had my daughter, and she's 2 now. She'll be turning 3 this year in November. And so and I've had to battle other things with my health and wellness, that are in a way beyond my control or unexpected or anything like that. So I have been juicing. So let's let's talk about balance because Miss Mother
I see you didn't have no wine today, sis. I see you got your juice.
I'm winding down with juice. Okay,
Come on now.
fresh pressed carrot juice from my Breville juicer. Okay, you can
Yes.
S.Fit Fashion on Instagram to check out my juices and the things that I do health wise. But and it's about balance. At the end of the day, you can enjoy some good food, but
True.
you can't make sure that you're overdoing and you good food in all the time, you know?
Right.
So, you know,
like we about to do today.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to the recipe because I'm always trying to learn new stuff and put it in my repertoire of recipes for the Mister. So another thing, with boundaries, okay, how do you feel like that affects your health and wellness? Like, what is like my body reacts? Like, I could break out, like I could get very stressed. I could get a panic attack or something. Like my body just, my body will react before I catch on mentally that something.
So what's going on?
Yeah. That means it's going too far too.
I talked about it before. I suffer from anxiety and depression really bad. So when I get like anxious or overwhelmed, I eat a lot. And so that's kind of my body's almost reaction to when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed or something rubs me the wrong way. And if I don't address it and just allow it to linger, I start like eating like almost uncontrollably. And so that's almost like my addiction, at that point.
Yeah,
that's like my coping mechanism. So that's almost like my body's reaction, so I really have to be careful with that because not only weight, and I'm not meaning like just in physical experience, but also in terms of health. Of course, as Black women, as Black people, we're more susceptible to diabetes, to heart disease, kind of all those sort of things. And I want to be here for a long time for my kids. And so sometimes what we think as just binge eating here and there, that starts to add up. Those calories, all that cholesterol, all those things that you're doing, if you're constantly doing that, it can start to have long-term effects on your health. So I think that's what, so I know for me, I have to set boundaries and I have to like protect my peace, like at all costs, because if not, it ultimately ends up affecting my health and like my well-being. And so I had to figure that out for myself, like this is not just about, a petty argument or, what it might seem like at the time. Like I have to fight for me. I have to fight for myself. So I don't care who it is. And we've talked about this, mother, family, whoever. I have to set boundaries because that's something that's important to me, that's important for my mental healthness. And I don't like, to be around people that kind of trigger me. Bye, boys. Excuse yourself. And I don't like to be around people that, cause me to have like anxious or anxieties or depressive episodes. If a person or a situation brings those things out in me, I try to address it, do the work and figure out what it is that's causing that. And if it's something that's beyond, what I care to or what I'm able to kind of repair with my mental, then, it's, I just prefer not to be around that person. And so I set like healthy boundaries. And even with family, it don't mean that I don't love you. I'm just love you from a distance.
Right.
And I think sometimes people get boundaries confused with like beef. Like we're not beefing. Just because I set boundaries with you and you can no longer access me the way that you used to, doesn't mean that I have a problem with you. It's just that I'm picking myself.
I'm real offended by that. And
they beefing and you don't have to, she don't fuck with me no more. No, that's not the case. I'm setting healthy boundaries for myself because I have to protect myself and my own mental health. So I still love you. I don't have a problem with you. I'm just loving you at a distance that's healthy for me.
Right. And I feel like even with that, like with my family or friends, like my circle is so good now. I think when I was younger in my 20s, one, I probably didn't know how to be the best friend, and I was still learning
True.
myself. And there were so many things I didn't know. And you think you know everything. You feel like you're invincible in your 20s and stuff, and you think you can do anything as an adolescent. And then like when real life happens, then you have to like adjust to the times. Like then you come down. There's a humility that you have to have once you're like growing into these different spaces. So like, because I know what my body has experienced, like I am a cancer survivor, in my 20s. And so like when I was 20 in my 20s, I had cancer and I've overcome that. And now I'm like into this healthier space mentally and physically. But it took like me getting out of like ridiculous relationships, unhealthy relationships with men. It took me healing my relationship with my mother and my family. Like it took a lot of different things. Go ahead. You can go ahead and switch. So, yeah. So I would definitely say that it's really, really important that I'm just not like surviving all of this, that I'm thriving. And so like I am able to make decisions. I have a stronger discernment. I definitely meditate and just doing all of these wonderful things in my life and adding value to my life one step at a time. But yeah, like that stuff, that's why I don't play with it, because my body will literally react. So I don't really play with my health like that. Thank you, Princess K. Like, it's important for people to know how this affects them and how problems, lack of boundaries will basically manifest in your body. Like you can, create a lot of different things. I know certain people, if they haven't dealt with their trauma, they'll break out with like lupus or some autoimmune disorders or anything like that can manifest in your body. And so I definitely want to like talk about that, because after we get to the point where we're in our careers, we have the home life, we have some balance and all of those things, like we really have to continue to take care of ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and things of that nature. So boundaries plays into that very much so, because you want to make sure that, you're taking care of yourself holistically, spiritually, And so right now I see Mama getting to the shrimp.
Getting to the shrimp. Yes. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna try to hold this where y'all can see it. So again, that's my Gulf shrimp. And again, I talked about like early in the show that it's just a preference things for me. I don't like farm-raised shrimp. To me, they don't really have like any taste. So I use these Gulf shrimp. And so that's why they were frozen. I'm gonna try and show this to you guys. And y'all forgive me, my tech skills are not the best. Okay, so I finally got the background review. If you notice, they look a bit different than like the shrimp that you might buy that's in a bag. Of course, the head is off, but you can tell that there's like a different appearance. They have more of like a browner kind of tan color to the tails. And again, so the reason they were frozen, we are lucky enough, we live in Houston, and so we're not too far from the Gulf. And so there's a market that's about 45 minutes to an hour from us. It's like right near to Galveston. And they have like shrimp boats that actually catch the shrimp fresh. And so we take trips out there maybe like a couple times a year. And so that's why they were frozen, because we literally get like 50, 75 pounds of shrimp, and then we bring them home and bag them up and put them in the freezer. So now that's what I was waiting
Next
for.
Next time y'all come up, y'all let me know so I can put my order in.
I got you, sis. I'm bringing some bags out the freezer, girl. I got you, sis.
I love it.
And so these are easy peel shrimp, the best kind. So you really literally just take off the shell, kind of start peeling it from the back, and then pull it up to the front, and then you almost just want to snap this tail off. So these are like literally the best. They call them easy. They call them easy pills because they really are. And so this does not take much at all. But believe me, like the payoff that you're going to get from using these fresh Gulf shrimp and the taste is so totally worth it. So as we continue the conversation, I'm just going to go ahead and finish peeling these shrimp. And it's literally going to take me about 5 minutes, and then we'll be ready to start putting the meal together, probably with the start of our next conversation.
Sure. So before we get started, we'll have a couple of guests come up. So you've spoken to Bree before. 2 cents will be first. So if you can go ahead and bring them up, that way we can start having additional conversations. Or if you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the chat. Make sure you like and subscribe. So the next thing that may or may not affect your physical and mental health is blended families. So I was starting to introduce blended families. Mother, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, great. So with that being stated, we're going to touch base on like how blended families can affect your mental health and wellness. So I'm just going to start off by saying, because me and my husband, we don't have any previous children or anything like that. So that is not necessarily, we're not bringing out outside kids or anything like that. But what I will say, anytime you're getting married, you are a blended family because you, as 1 and 2, are coming together. Mm-hmm. Okay, you're coming together. You are blending your customs and his customs, or you're blending those customs together. You're having 2 different, experiences, background, familial, type of situations that you're blending together. So we want to touch base on that. I think like my husband came from a 2-parent home. And so his upbringing, and my mother being a single mother at the time of us getting together, my mom is happily married now. But just having those and she's been married before. Let me just say wasn't always a single mother. But during the courses of her relationship, I've seen her in both situations. Now, my husband's family has always been married. And so you could be married for a long time, not saying that they're unhappy, but those customs and those beliefs, we have to blend those together. And they weren't always on one accord. So I think when we had to set boundaries in our relationship. And we had to make sure that we were on the up and up and have a lot of communication and marriage counseling. So we did premarital counseling before we got married. And it was a requirement for me because I hadn't seen that in my family growing up. Mental health has always been really important to me, and the health of a relationship. So those are some of the tools that we use and that we continue to use in our marriage, is going to counseling as well. So, hey, 2 cents, how are you doing today?
Welcome.
So, I think she's coming in. Maybe she has a little technical difficulty issues. Okay. But how do you feel like? So, I know your story is a bit different. So
yay.
Okay.
So we have kind of what we're referring to, what you were referring to. So we have a blended family in the sense that my husband was married before. And so I do have 3, I don't like the word step, so I use bonus. I do have 3 bonus children. And so that in itself just has been, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was difficult. Again, I know I've told my story here before, so I know a lot of you guys know. So when I met my husband, I was 19, freshly graduated from college, a party girl, going out 4 or 5 times a week. I was in the streets. And at the time, my husband was 28, had been married before. He was freshly divorced, and again, he had 3 children, from that previous marriage. So, of course, for me, that was a total shift, in everything. I was a person, I had been around kids, but never to the extent of anything, like, oh yeah, Princess K. Yeah, I like them. I never have liked the word steps. I always use bonus. So yeah, like kind of the idea of like raising kids or any of that good stuff was like totally new to me. And I had a lot of, let me call it out for what it is, selfishness. I had never really had to think too much about anybody but myself. And so there were a lot of hurdles that we had to get through. And I've talked about here before, and it's weird, the very thing that attracted me to my husband, which was the way that he was with his kids, how much of an amazing father he was, because I didn't grow up with that. So that was very attractive to me, is what ended up kind of hindering us a bit. So, as we got into the relationship, and I've been very honest and like candid about these things, I found myself almost being like jealous. And we are family, so I can admit these things, like almost jealous, not of the children, but jealous somewhat that he was having to give his time, and so much time to his children. And so I found myself like almost not competing, but instead of me thinking of it the way that, you ideally should probably think of the family and for it to be all nice and blended. I think we end up seeing, this ideal picture perfect blended family once everything is all nice and blended. And we don't realize that it's a lot of work that goes into that. And there are a lot of hiccups and that sort of thing that you encounter trying to get to that kind of, perfectly blended balance. So I would find myself, like, my mindset, it was not like we were all on the same team and we were all together. I felt like at times that it was like me versus his kids, or me versus you and your previous family. And then not to mention, so that was one dynamic with the kids. And then not to mention, of course, when there's an ex-spouse involved, sometimes that can get muddy. And I've talked about it before, I had to somewhat understand, and I think that just came with maturity, understand what the ex-spouse's, what her perspective was. At the time, I just saw it as, okay, you just being a bitch to me, like you mad because, like your husband, who was your husband, now your ex-husband, like has moved on. And so in my like kind of narrow-minded set of thinking, that's what I thought. But, I had to recognize this lady has lost her family. And the family that she had planned out, where she saw herself in 30 years, is not that anymore. And so going into my situation, because the ex-spouse had moved on, like romantically, like she had a new husband, she had another set of kids, I just assumed like, okay, this is fine. Like she's good. Like, it really doesn't matter that she just lost her family or what she thought her family was going to be. Like she has a new partner and it's totally fine.
That has to be sobering, like knowing that what you thought was your family is no longer your family.
Yeah,
like, how long does it take for a woman to heal?
Yeah, to really get over. Yeah, and now you're seeing your kids, in pictures with, your ex-husband, but now there's a new woman there where you used to be. And so, like I said, in retrospect, I'm able to see that perspective, but at the time I wasn't able to. So we had a lot of run-ins, it's been a lot of cussing and a lot of back and forth, just because, like I said, and I can admit, like my maturity wasn't there. And again, I had almost this kind of, like I said, really the honest word to put on it is jealousy almost, or almost feeling like it was a competition. Just because I wasn't used to having to worry about anybody but myself. I wasn't used to having to. So the way I grew up, even though my dad wasn't around, I grew up with 3 brothers and I was the only girl. So I never had to share like their affection or their attention or any of that, because it was always, like about me, about mama, whatever mama wanted, whatever, it was always on me. So this was like a whole new dynamic for me. And then I think the fact of, and again, at the time I was like young, like 19, early 20s. I think the fact of too, that my husband was still having to interact with, even though she was his ex-spouse and the mother of his kids, to me, in my mind, I just viewed it as an ex. And so I was kind of thinking about now, okay, well, I don't talk to any of my ex-dudes. Like, so I kind of had a problem with, I was kind of like, really,
like, what are his boundaries?
Yeah,
like with that relationship.
So coming to, and so I felt like, okay, well, you really should, you only need to be talking to her if it's about the kids. Like, I really had a problem with, because I'm like, well, I don't talk to any of my exes, like nothing like that. And so I had a problem with the fact that, yes, it's the mother of your kids, but she's still an ex. That he was, and at this time, my poor husband, he was really just trying to co-parent with her.
Right.
But I didn't see it that way. And so, anytime that I felt like, hey, and I was that person, I ain't gonna lie, I was petty. If they talking or whatever and laughing about anything, I know it ain't that fun.
Hell,
yes,
right?
That's like, what y'all laughing about? Like, I was that person because I just didn't, and even like up until this day, and we've been together like 12 years, I can be honest here. Sometimes I have to catch myself because sometimes things do kind of still trigger me with that. And so it's been over the years, I think, me having to set boundaries. We talked about before, kind of when we even talked about the whole in-law situation, that his family, would still like invite the ex-wife to gatherings and, kind of those sort of things. And it used to really bother me. And so with perspective, I had to, kind of sit back and realize, okay, well, this is the mother of his children. Mm-hmm. So for different specific holidays or that sort of thing, it may be appropriate for her to come, and that may be what's in the best interest of the children, to
right.
have both parents there for like Christmas. But family gatherings, so that was a boundary for me. Family gatherings, we just getting together to play cards, whoop, she don't need to be there. Like, no. I'm sorry, he's moved on. It's a new woman.
Big events, yes. Small ones.
Well, no, yeah. And I think if people are honest with themselves, nobody wants to kick it with their spouse's ex all the time. I think you can have a cordial relationship, but in terms of them, like just being, at every family event, and again, this is personal, that wasn't for me. But I had to mature and recognize that some events and at some times were for the best interest of the children. Like say for Christmas or something like that. It's nice for the kids to see both parents and to have both parents there. So I was willing to compromise on some things. But that was a boundary for me. Like, okay, every event, like to me, I didn't feel like, and again, this was my boundary and that's what worked best for us. Mm-hmm. Some other boundaries, I didn't feel like that it was appropriate for her to, and we just ran into a situation like this, actually kind of recently, for her to like call after like 10 or 11 o'clock unless there was an emergency. Of course, if it's an emergency, child sick, you had to take somebody to the hospital, anything like that, I don't have a problem with. But just about routine things, I didn't feel like it was appropriate. So I had to set a boundary on that. And I think in her perspective, and I think sometimes as women we do this, so she was like a night owl. And so I don't think that she felt like she was really doing anything wrong. It's like, okay, I'm up at this time, I need to tell him something about the kids. I'm just going to text him, or, I wonder if he's still up. I'm just going to call him. It's 10:45. And so I think sometimes as women, but to me, it just felt so disrespectful. And I think we have to learn, and I shouldn't say we, but when people are in these like co-parenting relationships, we have to be cognizant that we're dealing, if it's a woman, we're dealing with another woman's husband, or, vice versa, we're dealing with another man's wife. And so absolutely. I think, it goes back to just respecting, like me, in my case, I respect women. And so I think it goes back to just being able to respect that other person as a human or as a woman. I wouldn't, and I felt like that boundary, I didn't see anything wrong with it because I felt like I wouldn't care who it was. I'm not, even you, Sean, I'm not going to call if I needed something from S.'s husband, and even though we're all friends, he's good with IT. If I need to ask him a question about my computer or something, I'm not going to call your house at 11:30 to ask him something about my computer. I'm just not, because that's a married man and I'm calling another woman's husband. So to me, I think with co-parenting, you have to really draw on a lot of respect and realize that, again, you're dealing with another person's spouse. Yeah, that's your ex-spouse, and yeah, that might be the father or mother of your children, but now they've moved on. And so now I think it helps if the other party really thinks about, okay, how would I want this person to show respect to me? If I were in a new relationship.
Who do you think has the hardest time adjusting when they get married with boundaries with their friends? I'm just like, I've had a situation where, my significant other, like something similar to that, like I think something happened with her phone and like she called. Now, Dwayne was there. Mr. Blackman Unfiltered was there. Okay. When his phone had rung, it was like 2:00 in the morning.
Oh.
And I was like, who is calling you at 2 a.m? Like who think I just played it cool. Like I've been in situations where like my husband, unbeknownst to him, has done some things and like, it just didn't, I haven't even, what I love his good girlfriends because at the end of the day, so one time I think my husband like made a profile picture, had a profile picture and he had another woman. Now I don't know. Yeah, girl, I got to speak on it a little bit. So he posted one of his longtime friends as his profile picture, and it was a cute picture. But now, sir, we all know,
you can't
only wives and mothers and significant others go
and
in
mama
the
only get a little bit, and mama just get around.
Or if they die, maybe if they die, you was close. That's pretty much it. So that's like one of those things happened, and I was like, I didn't even have to check him. My homegirl, like his friend, a friend of his, and like, take that down, your wife. Like I didn't even have to say anything. So like I enjoy my spouse having a different perspective with men and women. Like some men feel like you can't have friendships with the opposite sex, and I totally feel like you can. So, I think it's important to have like perspectives on certain things. And you may not get it from me, but you can get it from your friend who's respecting our relationship and respecting, you're not trying to be on some shim sham, with your dealings with my significant. Like I have no problem with my husband having friends with a woman, and he doesn't have any issues with me having friends with a man. So vice versa.
Like you said, it's good. Sometimes you need that perspective.
Yeah.
And I've benefited from that too. I even call like black man sometimes. Of course I call you SI and I get, like your perspective. And usually you give me, the real good advice. Like, hey, chill out, sis. Like you ain't gotta do all that. And then sometimes, so I usually handle it that way.
I was like, you want to talk about it? That recent one, how you call
Oh, yes. So, I mean, because, we're talking about blended family, so we can talk about this. So, there was an incident.
Before you get started, we want to welcome Princess K and Brianna to the panel.
Hey,
hello, ladies. How y'all doing?
Hello. I want to hear the story.
Okay.
So
back to the story.
Incident. So, we just talked about the boundaries and, not calling after about 10:30. And again, I've grown because if you do decide you're going to call at 10:45, I'm picking up the phone and I'm being like, is there something I can help you with? Why the fuck are you calling my house this late? That was the old me. So I've grown, it was a pettiness in me too. It was. So, but we recently had an incident where my husband's ex-spouse, and we're in a good place, so I don't know if she watches this. Girl, I'm trying to be a testimony.
It's an example.
It's
all good.
Right? It's all love, sis. So she had it, and she has moved on. So she was dating, an individual, and then so she ended up calling our house at 3:00 in the morning. And so when the phone rang, I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking like, what? Because, people don't call that time of morning unless somebody been took to the hospital,
somebody dead.
Somebody's dead. Like, what is going on? Oh, Lord, like something happened. And so, I go to look and I'm like, oh, well, maybe, something has happened. Maybe there's an issue, that's been going on. So again, I did the work, so I'm on my calmness. And it turns out, that there was like, so there was an issue, but it wasn't like a health issue, like, or anything like that. It was, like,
some personal
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah, on that side. So yeah, I didn't say it all the way directly. I just
Yeah, I was like, it was something personal that took place.
yeah,
I'm gonna pretty it up for you, mother.
yes, thank you, sis. Yeah, so it was yeah, because I ain't got no tact. So yeah, so it was a personal, and I'll say it was like
Matter.
domestic matter. It was like a domestic thing on her side. But long story short, the kids were okay. They were at home. They were upstairs. And so thinking back on it, it could have maybe affected the kids, but at that time it wasn't. And again, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. So like I'm kind of foggy. And so anyway, so she's calling with that and like screaming and hysterical and like all these things. And I just don't know what to do. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So again, at the time, I'm foggy. I didn't really know how to feel about it. My first instinct was to go back to old mother. But I'm like, you know what? That ain't right. Let me try to have some perspective, like try to show some empathy here. So anyway, long story short, my husband ends up, and they was like about 45 minutes an hour for us. He ends up going over there, just to check and make sure all is good. She had called the police, but it had been like, 20 minutes or so. They hadn't shown up. So he just followed up on all those things, and he, ended up going over there. Long story short, the police ended up showing up like around the same time he did. So he ended up leaving and coming back. So before he left, though, we had already, discussed like, hey, you a black man, like this situation don't need to escalate. The police are already involved. Like, just be cautious. So we had some boundaries before he left. Like, don't get out the car, like none of that. So the next morning, like I said, at the time I was foggy and I think I had me a little wine the night before. So I was like real kind of cloudy when it happened. The next day, I get up and I'm like, wait a minute. I think she was kind of out of line, like kind of going to, because no matter how much we heal, we still have those petty, parts of it. And so my pettiness was starting to come out, and I was like,
I don't think it was petty, sis. I think you was processing. Okay, you weren't petty yet. We was processing, right?
Yeah, and you're right. And honestly, that's probably what. Like I said, I was foggy, but the next day was like, okay, I'm kind of thinking through what happened. But the petty part of me was like, you know what? Maybe I ought to call her. And I ought to let her know. Don't call. No, don't do don't call my house at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was those thoughts that started going through my mind. So I tried to pull out my tools. And so I called my sis S-Dot and I was like, I really got the good mind that I really ought to call her and like check her by calling her, and let her know. And, S-Dot had to give me, some good tips, had to, kind of calm me down and was like, sis, it's really more about you setting, boundaries, within your household. And she taught me, and she, kind of taught me through and gave me some tips for coming and approaching my husband about it. Because I had approached my husband, but I was like super combative and like really on some stuff like it better not happen no more again. Or like, you better tell him. And of course that didn't go
tell her
well.
before I had to tell her.
Exactly. Yeah, it was really that kind of tone. And so of course that didn't go well at all. And he wasn't really listening. It was just more of me like loud and 100. Like telling him how I felt about the situation. And so X-Dot gave me like a lot of tips, a lot of advice about how I could approach him. And how to, like approach the situation. And she really like told me and helped me to like think about it from the mindset of my household, and really helped me to think of it from a mindset of controlling what I can control in my household and setting boundaries in my household and not being so much concerned about the ex-spouse or the external boundaries over there. And so she helped to kind of take that petty out of me. Because
I can't have my girl going to jail. Like,
I'm like, I'm too old for that. I got 5 kids now. Like, so she really helped, to like bring me down. And so I'm really thankful. So when I be saying on here, like I'm thankful for my tribe and I'm thankful for finding the right tribe, I'm so serious about this. Because, like and through my growth, I've had to stop surrounding myself. Well, and I shouldn't even say stop surrounding, because I am still friends with some of my ride or die chicks and some of the chicks that would have been telling me, oh, I'm coming to your house in all black. I'm coming to pick you up. Like, let's ride out and go over there. but I know the times to call them. And I knew that, like, if I were to call them, you got to know. I wouldn't say that you have to disassociate yourself from people,
Okay.
but you have to know, like, what situations, are best, and which friends, you need to call for certain situations. Because, like, S. Dot said, like, she ain't trying to have a girl, like, going out to jail and all of that. So, Bree and Princess Tay, what do y'all, well, first of all, I know, Bree, I know we've talked before. I know you have a blended family, right?
Is she on there? She might pop in.
Bree,
Princess K.
Princess K. Oh, no, I'm...
Hello. Oh, okay.
Hello.
Sorry, my toddler wanted to show me a puzzle. Sorry. I had to step out for a second. Sorry. I was listening to your story. Mm-hmm.
What's your experience with blended families, or have you had any situations where you had to set boundaries or anything like that?
Because you have a blended family, right, Bree?
Yeah, I have a bonus baby. She's actually in the middle. So, yeah, figure that one out. But she's in the middle. And it wasn't
How is that dynamic?
It's funny because we weren't together, of course. He was with her, and they were actually engaged at a point. So we were engaged. I broke off the engagement. Then he got with her. They were actually engaged. Like, my husband clearly was like, I'm trying to get married. They were engaged. But, she had some mental health stuff that it just wasn't working. So they, didn't end up getting married. And so they had my bonus baby. So actually, when we found out that she was pregnant, I wasn't told for a very long time. I mean, to the point where
y'all were back together?
No, we weren't. We weren't together. Like, it was all free and clear. Like, I was with somebody else, he was with somebody else. But he didn't tell me because I guess he was afraid of how I would respond, which I was like, I really don't care.
He was still hoping to get you back.
I guess. Yeah, I was just like, why wouldn't you tell me? So I was a little irritated about it, more so because, I'm like, well, our daughter don't even know she about to have a sister. Like y'all wrong for that. So basically from the time she was born, because we were co-parenting because of my oldest, we just blended because I was like, girl, we gotta help each other out. Like, they're sisters, but they need to have a relationship. And my mother had a home daycare until she retired 5 years ago. And so I was like, yeah, girl, you don't have to be out here struggling. Like, she can come to the daycare because my daughter's already there. They can have their sister bonding time. Like, I'm cool. Like, and so we actually started helping each other out outside of him. Like, because our daughters were sisters. So we had a relationship and we hashed out all our stuff because at first she didn't like me and I didn't like her because of some of her mental health stuff, how she would lash out when she was having like breaks. She would have like psychotic breaks. Yeah. And so she would like really lash out. And I just didn't think it was healthy for my daughter to really be around that all the time or really at all. And so she misunderstood, that of course she perceived it as I had a problem with her because she was the new girlfriend, but it really wasn't that. So we kind of hashed out all our problems. And so we had gotten along, and this was, they had broken up and we still weren't back together. Like, he didn't go from her back to me. So we had time to kind of establish like just our relationship as like our daughter's mothers, I guess. So then when we finally got back together, my husband and I, she was actually really happy that it was me that was going to be her daughter's stepmom.
Wow.
So we're just really lucky that we had a good relationship outside of him. And we still to this day have a very good relationship. But now that my husband and I are married, we still respect boundaries. We're not like best friends. We keep it cordial. Logistically wise, she typically still talks to him. We don't really text each other or anything. And we just find that keeps the boundaries pretty clear with us. But I'm just lucky. Like, we have a good relationship. Like, she doesn't really have to fight for anything. I think anytime my husband had a gap where maybe he wasn't doing the best by her, I could speak from my experience. Maybe, because a lot of times for him, he like, she crazy. she just doing this. And I'm like, well, maybe there's some way we can mitigate it. Like maybe she's stressed out because she's not doing this or whatever. So I'm just really lucky that we have a great relationship.
The advocate. Yeah, I love that. I love hearing those kind of stories because we have to have each other's back as women too, because men don't understand certain dynamics. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so her support system, when she lived here, she moved back across the country. But when she lived here, literally my family was kind of like her support, her village. Like we were her village. And it was just like, I guess it was strange. Some people were like, we were her village. Like when she had breakdowns, she came to my mom's house. Like my mom was like her adoptive mom while she was here, because her mom was across the country. So she didn't have anybody here. So my mom kind of became like, my mom still calls her to this day and like talks to her. So we just had a very unique situation where, because my family is just like that, we take everybody in, like literally. Yeah. That's how we always were. So it was very easy for me to cooperate with the situation. So it was a smooth transition for us for the most part.
That is amazing.
I love it.
Yeah. Can I ask, how old were you guys?
How old was I? I got to start subtracting the children's ages from my
you don't
age.
mind.
No, like I'm 34, Charlie's 8, so I was 26 when she was born.
Wow, y'all was still fairly young.
Yeah, my husband was 30 then, I guess. He was 30 because he's 4 years older than me. And she is younger than me, my bonus baby's mother. She's 2 years younger than me, so she was 24. So we were pretty young.
That's amazing that y'all had like that much emotional maturity at that age. Like, man.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I think it's because I think that's an important point, because my mother always took people in, and like my mom was divorced from my father, and she always was so respectful to him and whoever he was with. And I think I just saw that growing up. So maybe that's why for me it was just like, yeah, we're gonna do this bet. Like
like she's here, right? What are we gonna do?
Yeah,
I was happy. I was like, girl, I got a baby I ain't have to have. Let's go.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, so maybe it's because my mom just modeled that for me, and she literally had a home daycare, and she would like take people in. Like that was just always how she was. So
awesome. Princess K, do you have any stories about boundaries, relationships, or anything like that you'd like to share?
Oh, this is can you hear the noise in the background first?
No, you're clear.
It's okay. Mm-hmm.
No, I don't hear anything in the back.
Somebody suddenly decided to start mowing the lawn. Oh my God. Write it down. Okay. But I thought this was an interesting topic because I am a part of a blended family. My fiance and I don't have children together currently. We didn't come in with children, but in terms of blended, it's dealing with his, not dealing, I don't want to use that word, but
interacting
with his family members and the different culture. It's kind of interesting because the way I met him was very strange. I think I talked about it on another panel, but long story short, I had a stalker, and they broke into my apartment, and I freaked out and basically ran out of my apartment, and he was out there, and I just went with like the person that I'd already interacted with him a few times. He seemed kind of cool. So I was like, hey, can you like stand by me while I call the police? You know, so he was actually very supportive throughout that entire encounter. And we kind of just started to build up a friendship with really nothing involved in terms of romantically.
Mm-hmm. What's his background, Princess?
He's Korean.
Oh, okay. So that's quite a different culture.
Yeah. It's different. And I say it's interesting because I'd always I'd always been attracted to Black men. I never
Mhm.
really looked outside of my race or was interested in anyone else. But this man, came into my life and just um took over my heart basically.
Oh.
And so we developed a friendship, and then probably around the time we actually confessed to each other, he wanted me to meet his parents. It was very soon, like the second date, just about.
Mm.
And that was like different, but he told me that in his culture, a lot of the time when, people are dating each other, they like to meet parents first, usually at the start.
Mhm.
It's just, they work differently than people over here in America. Like,
Mhm.
his family is more involved in his life, and that's something that I had to kind of get used to, because I do come from a two-parent household. My father passed away when I was younger, and I was raised up by my mother, but she's always been the type who's like, you've always been independent, so I'll stand at the side and watch you, but I'm not going to like get into your life. But his family is more concerned about him. So getting used to that was different. Getting used to meeting the family, like on the second date, basically, was something I had to get used to. And I did have a problem with his mother, although I didn't really express it. In Korea, they don't have a lot of people of color in certain areas. Like, in the city area, you might find a lot of foreigners, but typically in some parts, they don't have a lot of people of color, so they're not aware of things that might be taken offensive. And I don't want to go into detail about like what she said, but I took it as she was being racist, even though, and so when my fiance dropped me off at my place, I just, casually broached up the topic. I didn't want to come between his mother or anything like that. We were just starting to date, so I didn't want to get too heavy in that. But I was thinking to myself, well, maybe I don't understand. Maybe this is a problem with culture, So I was just calmly like, Oppa, that's what I call him. I said, Oppa, your mother said blah, blah, blah. And so once he heard it, he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'll let her know to be more careful about that. He's just like, over in Korea, like until we got to America, we hadn't ever actually seen a person of color. So we don't know that basically what she did was she, like, without asking me, she just started running her fingers through my afro.
No. Okay. Boundaries. Okay. Boundaries.
I have this wild big afro, and she's just like, curly hair, your hair's so curly. And just started running her hands through my hair. And, when it happened,
Black girl.
Right.
the fiance had been like, Mom, stop, And so I brought it up, like, after we left. And he was like, I'm so sorry. He was like, they don't really understand boundaries too much sometimes. And they don't understand that, I gave him the lecture early on. Do not touch my hair.
Right.
Don't touch my hair.
Yes. Okay. I did not hear that song.
Yeah.
Right.
But I that's what I heard about expat people who travel or live in different countries, how like they literally show like the worst parts of Black people, or they don't have that interaction. So there's this big old like assumption, or they just don't know what that's like. So that's
they don't have much awareness, and a deeper problem in that was that his family originally wanted him to be with a Korean female. And it wasn't that they looked down on me or anything like that, but they had their own misconceptions about what Black people are like, our culture and stuff like that. And for a minute there, it was kind of some sort of tension until I made the decision to like stop and talk with my mother-in-law and just respectfully broach the topic, you know? And she explained her point. I came to understand that what she saw on TV about Black people and, you know, loud, aggressive women who are, you know, always looking to fight someone and stuff like that, that's what she saw. And until she came to interact with me more, she thought that I would be like that. And it wasn't that she didn't like me because of my color, but she was just more traditional and wanted her son with a Korean female. You know, we had that conversation and I prayed about it consistently over time. And eventually we just started bonding more. And I think that was probably when I decided to learn more about my fiance's culture by asking her to teach me to cook Korean meals. You know, I started meeting up with her once every week, and it was awkward. I will tell you that. But I can say after a couple years now, she has been a very great supporter, a very great mother, and a very great friend. Like right now, my in Korea, male citizens who are uphill, they typically have to enlist in the Korean military between 18 and like 28. And you have to enlist for 2 years. And it doesn't matter if you are studying abroad, as long as you were born in Korea as a male, you have to leave and go in the army for 2 years. And that was another hurdle that I had to go through. He proposed in October before he left. And it has been an extremely hard time. But
how do you cope?
I cope, you know, coincidentally with my mother-in-law. I go see her like every week or more than that in between my jobs. And now, like, I've learned all the recipes. So I've taken up the role of like cooking for my mother and father-in-law and, you know, sending food over to my mom, which they've also developed a little friendship too, which I just love to see. But they've been so supportive during this time. It's been so extremely hard for me because I really do miss him. And I'm not able to contact him as much as I want because they're not allowed frequent communication with people outside of the base. Like he has this little phone they gave him and he doesn't have a lot of minutes on it and he only has a certain amount of time to speak. So it's very difficult. It's like, you know, I don't even get to talk to him. So sometimes I do cry, honestly, but just being with his family, babysitting my nephews and nieces and spending time with them has just been something that has been very supportive for me.
That's commendable. I can definitely empathize. My husband was in the U.S. Army, U.S. military, and so he had you know, a couple of deployments you know, throughout our marriage. So I definitely empathize with what you're going through, and it is hard. It's very hard, but I think that's great. That's beautiful, you know, that you've been able to forge a bond with your in-laws because you need that. You know, it's hard.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. And so salute to you because I think a lot of times, of course, the men and the person, I shouldn't just say men because it's women too that are like in militaries and in armies that are leaving their families. I think they always get recognized, but I think sometimes we don't recognize how much the family and the spouse and the kids are like giving up for that member to be, out protecting our country and protecting our different countries. And it's hard, it's difficult. And so salute to you for even, having the courage to marry someone or to be with someone, that, had that type of situation. And, you're getting through it. Because it's hard in a lot of ways. And I shouldn't say take the easy way out because, I've seen circumstances where some, like military wives end up like cheating and, kind of that sort of thing just because it's so difficult. But I always salute and take my hat off to the women that are, like stand, and holding it down for their husbands and just, kind of waiting for them to return because it's difficult. So to salute to you. And we always say, oh, thank you for your service to our country. And that's not discounting that at all. But we need to thank the spouses too.
Oh yeah.
Because it's really my oldest son, my husband didn't meet him. He was 9 months or 10 months when my husband met him. So he wasn't at the birth or like any of those things. It was, and it was difficult. And, thankfully I had the support of my family and, of course, of my husband's family, because you need like a village at that time. Like you feel like very alone, even though, you have a spouse, they're not there. And like you said, you can only talk to them, at, different periods. And sometimes depend on, what's going on with their unit. That's the way that sometimes they get not punished, but if different things are happening, they may like start limiting like their communication with their families and that sort of thing. And so it's kind of a thing where like you can't even depend on that, because it's at least helpful sometime when okay, I'm going to be able to talk to him every day at 2 and at 5. But you can't even depend on that because, like you said, it's so sporadic. So you don't really know the next time that you're going to talk to them. And you can just really start to feel like very alone. And so, like I said, I totally empathize, with what you're going through. And I just want to say, sis, it will get better. I know it might not seem like it, but the months are going to go by and he'll be back and y'all have y'all family and y'all live happily ever after. But at the time, and I can say that I'm speaking from experience because at the time I had a new baby and like going through all those things. And I just remember like after I had my son, I just remember being in the hospital and I'm like melodramatic and I was in the bed and I'm like, oh, I just feel like a single mother. I did like my family had gone home and so it was just me. And I remember, and I would always try to stay strong for my husband, but I remember him calling me. And so that was the other thing too. Like I said, the communication is like sporadic. So I didn't even get to talk to him the day I had my son. So I didn't end up talking to him till like the next day. And I just burst out crying. And I'm like, oh, I don't have anybody. And mind you, I had, my family and then his family was there. But the dramatic in me was like, I don't have anybody. And you're not here. But so again, I empathize with what you're going through. Like you really can, start to feel like you're alone. But I think that's a beautiful story, that you and your in-laws have forged this great relationship. And I'm so happy that you at least have them.
Right.
To be a part of your village. That's amazing.
I wanted to say.
I'll go ahead with the cooking because I know the cooking is moving. Go ahead and.
So I am.
Oh wait.
What happened? It was looking good.
Oh man, we was just. It was.
Is she coming?
She coming
he
back.
changed the camera. Okay. I don't think she knows. He changed the camera though. Okay.
We behind you. Okay, we did see. You can work if you can unmute yourself. We can still hear you. You can go through what you about to do because it was looking good. We saw
yes.
It
Black man, can you move the camera back?
You out here showing all my precious assets to the world.
Okay, you back. Let's see what's in that pot.
Let me move it around.
He gonna have you diving out the camera.
Girl, I'm trying to tell you. So this was just me rendering down the sausage, the Zumo sausage that I cut up. So I just rendered it down because you want to get like all that fat out of there. And so I like mine to be really rendered. It kind of gives the sausage almost like a crispiness. So, kind of like that crispiness that we
I
like for
know that's
bacon.
like the best part.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
so
it
good.
gives it that. So I like to render mine like a whole lot. So that's the sausage. So I'm going to be using 2 pots. So we're actually going to put the Creole in the dish itself into this pot. So I'm just going to, and I'm going to do that off camera. I'm going to pour this sausage into the pot. Hang on, I'm going to get my son to come and do some of this taping. So as we continue through the next conversation, I'm just going to saute the okra down. But as I mentioned to you guys, it's important to do the sausage first because we want to use that fat from that
flavor.
sausage, to kind of flavor like the whole thing. So that's why I specifically started with the sausage. And so I'm just going to pour the sausage into this pot here. And then I have the shrimp. So those are the shrimp that I peeled. And I just used all those seasonings, all these seasonings here that I kind of went through at the beginning. I used all those seasonings to marinate the shrimp because it does not take shrimp long to marinate. It literally takes about 10-15 minutes to marinate shrimp. So after I peeled them, I just got them seasoned. And so I'm just letting them kind of marinate there. And so after I finish the okra, sauteing that in this sausage fat, then I'm going to saute those shrimp in that same fat. And I will flip the camera back so you guys can see all those things. And then once we get all that into the pot, then we're going to put it together, which literally takes about 5 minutes. So we're going to continue the conversation, and I will be back to you guys with this shortly.
Ooh, that looks so good.
It looks so good. Yes. So
I'm hungry.
I wish y'all could smell it.
I can smell it in my mind. I can just imagine it.
Oh, I wish y'all could smell it.
I know it smells good. I love a good.
I just wanted to say shout out to Princess K because I know how hard it is to date across cultures too. Even without the military thing, like ultimately that's what made me decide I wanted to marry a Black man because it's definitely not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, they're teaching me Korean right now, and I'm having problems.
You said they're teaching you Korean?
Yes, I'm learning. Cool. I can read and write the language, although I'm a slow reader. But speaking can be a problem sometimes. But they say I'm good with pronunciation, so I guess we're getting somewhere.
Well, that's good.
Somewhere. Be patient. I know. I mean, in America, we do not, use multiple languages. It's like English, and other countries are learning like 2 or 3 languages by the age of 5. So I feel like we're behind the needle point. With that.
And
you don't count AAVE?
Better at it because every month I send him care packages. And so I started doing that. Firstly, give him something from home, and then also I separated the package and I have stuff in there for his comrades and his supervisors, basically. So at first he was just like, "Why are you packing stuff for them?" And I'm just like, "So you can give it to them so they can treat you nicer."
That's the benefit of having that's a
good idea.
A woman.
Yeah, because they don't think about that kind of stuff.
Nope. Exactly. I'm like, give this to your supervising officer. Give this to him. I separated it. I labeled it. Make sure he gets it.
Yes. I used to get creative, sis. I don't know if you do this. I had to take it back to middle school. I would send him like some panties and spray it with perfume. And then I would send him letters and I'd kiss it with my lipstick. So we had to get like creative,
No, I had some of that in there. And I have this thing where I post like 4 weeks of like journals. Right. And so I write down what I did that day and my feelings for him. I can write poetry very easily. So I'll put a poem in there, write about, my days, how I miss him, blah, blah, hope he's okay and safe wherever he is. And then, I put that in there and I label it so he knows to read
like in chronological order.
Of the week, So he knows, read this on Monday, read this on Tuesday, so on.
That's sweet. That is so sweet.
Yeah, I love it.
And I think we see it as little things, but I remember my husband had like started looking forward to getting those packages. And so for whatever reason, if I could make it to the post office, like sometimes he would get so upset and I didn't understand. And then when he came home, like he told me, he said, that was the one consistent thing that I could look forward to. He was like, and no matter what I was going through, there or what we had going on, I looked forward to, and he said he knew that he was gonna get, his package, and I guess they call out for the mail for them, and he said it was just the excitement, that he would have of getting like that package for me. I really think it was the panties with the perfume on it.
It was the panties.
That's right. It was the panties. That's what
it was the panties. She's sitting over here playing coy.
Right. I really think that's what it was. And I was kissing the letters with the lipstick. That's probably really what he was waiting on. But he said, he would look forward to those things. And of course, I didn't understand. I'm thinking like, I'm like hella busy. I'm trying to raise these kids, and my melodramatic. I said I'm by myself. I don't have anybody, and it's like, okay, I didn't make it to the post office, but I had to see it from his perspective. They're going through all these things. Depending on what area or what part they're dealing with, life and death situations, and just to have kind of that one thing to look forward to. Or to know, even if it's for 30 minutes out of your day, hey, they thinking about me. I got a family at home that loves me. Like, let me get through this. Let me do these months, and I'm gonna be back with them. It was like just, it was getting them through.
Yes,
I'm laughing.
Did you see Tommy being
What did he say?
Tommy said, "Okay, my boy used to sleep with his girl's panties on his face when we were on deployment." And just to answer Tamika, yes. So we working on getting the Mrs. Black filtered, on the panel, right, so she can show her perspective. So that's in the works for sure. Right. I also wanted to circle back, like just to give people an overview of what boundaries look like. What are the what's the foundation? And so I would just say it starts with respect. It has to have accountability. You have to feel safe. You need to be honest. You have to have trust, cooperation, and support. That is what a healthy relationship looks like. So whether it is a friend, whether it is a significant other, whether it's a parent, you want to make sure that you have that foundation where you're feeling respected, whether it's your perspective or the life you want to live. So I just wanted to make sure y'all got some tools. So if it don't look like that, then you may have to, is that the okra? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna pause for the cause. Okay, mother. I'm just pause for the okra. That looks delicious.
So I took the same pot right here, that we have rendered our sausage down in. So it had all that flavor at the bottom, all that pork fat goodness. And I put the frozen okra in here. And so I am just now kind of rendering down the okra. We're going to saute it a little bit so it don't be so it's not slimy. I don't mind the sliminess of okra, but I know that some people don't like the sliminess. So which my kids don't like the sliminess. So I saute it and I really get a good saute on it to kind of take out that sliminess from the okra. So we're just gonna render this down, and then I also put these same seasonings in. I'm gonna go through this again. I know we've shared them a couple times because we're gonna season at every layer of this, so it's seasoned all the way through. So I just seasoned the okra with all those same seasonings. So I'm gonna get this rendered off, and then I'm gonna put this into our pot where we have the sausage. And
that's crispy. That looks good.
Right? Like that bacon texture. And then we'll bring it all together in the end. So I'm just going to get this sauteed down, and then next we're going to do the shrimp, and we're going to be ready to put it all together.
I wanted to say about the boundaries that I noticed that when I didn't have a good sense of myself, it was harder to set boundaries as well.
Yes.
And I think it's because if you don't know where you start and where you end, I mean, just logically speaking, how can you set a boundary?
Right.
Right. So that's just something I've learned, that when I was more lost and didn't have a sense of myself, it was harder for me to set boundaries emotionally, I guess, and spiritually boundaries. Those were a little harder to set
That was
Yeah.
late 20s, okay? That's when I was
Right.
starting to
Probably
come
have to
into
do
my
with
own.
too,
Like, people
because
think
it
you're supposed
is.
to walk out the womb and know that you getting
Yeah.
treated poorly or whatever the
Mhm.
case may be. That comes through life. So absolutely, Bree, I totally agree
And it
with
probably has to do with because it's difficult. It is sometimes an uncomfortable conversation to set boundaries with people. And so I'm sure that probably, has something to do with kind of getting that maturity and get your bearings and figure it out. I shouldn't be getting treated like this. I'm sure all those things kind of prepare you to have like that difficult conversation. I saw someone said in the comments that they were used to be a people pleaser. And
Mhm,
so
mhm.
that's why they struggled with, setting boundaries. And I can totally see that because when you're a people pleaser, you don't want to have uncomfortable conversations with people.
Right.
And sometime on your journey to setting boundaries, those conversations are going to be uncomfortable, especially with the big boundary offenders. It's the people that be the worst ones. And sometimes they'll make it sound like you wrong. Or
Yeah.
when you let them know what your boundaries now are, oh, you the wrongest
The
person in the
guilt
world.
trips, okay?
Yes, they try to do that. So sometimes it can be like uncomfortable, but you
Yeah.
just have to stick to, kind of like I mentioned, you got to fight for yourself. Because we talked about earlier in the show how sometimes not setting boundaries and protecting your peace, it can have effects like on not only your mental well-being, but your physical well-being.
Yeah.
So you have to, and I'm sorry, at the end of the day, there's nobody or there's nothing that's more important than me being here for my kids, which includes my mental health, my physical health, whether that's mom, family, whoever. It's nothing or nobody that's more important than that.
So I know that I know like men have this thing where women don't always respect. I will say about the mothers. Like, how do you feel about mothers and boundaries? I know that could be a touchy subject. So how do you feel, or what's your relationship like with your mother or your dad? I know both of us, we haven't had fathers in our life to even have that discussion.
True.
But I know, Bree, Princess, what have been have you ever had to set boundaries with your mother, or anybody been overbearing or anything like that? How do you deal with that?
Well, I guess I'll go first. But my mom, well, we're like best friends. So I really talk to my mom like every day. She lives out here with us. So it's more so just being like, okay, your mama can't be, around all the time. We just love each other. I just love my mama. And my husband be like, okay,
Oh,
y'all. Like, that's just, can y'all not, we talk every
that's so
day,
sweet
every
though.
day. And we sit and have our coffee in the morning together, and we talk about the dreams we had. We have vivid dreams, and we be in each other dreams. Like,
Oh, so
we
y'all be floating around. Okay, I
we
get
be in the
Right?
spirit world
okay.
talking. Like,
It's
I
so
just even,
sweet.
I already told her, I'm like, the day you leave this earth, I'm just gonna be, just know I'm gonna be down here worthless for
Oh.
a while, because like, she's my best friend. So more so setting the boundaries of like, okay, like, I'm married, so we can't just be kikiing all the time and hanging out and up
Yeah.
under each other. So that's the boundary more so with her. And then I have to set boundaries with his mother, who I get along with my mother-in-law with, but she's a little chaotic. So I have to set boundaries with her as well. Most of his family, I have to set boundaries with them because they're takers. They're just energetically takers, and they're nice. They don't. I just don't think they realize that's how it is. But so I
Yeah.
have to set boundaries with them. And my father, we've had our ups and downs where we didn't talk for a while, especially when when I went through my Wiccan phase. I had left. I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and my dad actually, he was disfellowshipped from the Jehovah's Witnesses for most of my life because he was a cheater and he was selling dope. And so my whole life he wasn't even a witness, and we still talk to him, which really is technically against the rules. You're not supposed to talk to people, even if it's your own father. And then when he got older, he got reinstated. And I was going through my floating through the universe, trying everything phase. And so we actually like fell out when I was trying all kind of different stuff. And then we made up. So for him, it's just constantly like setting a boundary of, if you're not going to respect talk to me in a respectful way, we can't have this conversation. And it's not so
Right.
his personality, it's just that that's just how Jehovah's Witnesses are. So most of the problems I had with my parents were not really inherently the way they were. It was more so them trying to enforce their religious beliefs on us, like as adults, even though we had already rejected it. So that's a lot of where the conflict happened most of the time, because once my mom, she's not a Jehovah's Witness anymore. Once she left, we never had any problems. And I think that's maybe why we're so close now, because we weren't able to be like when I was younger, because it was always like very rigid and I have to be like this and I have to be like that.
Rules and religion.
Yeah, it was just like, even though we were all weirdos. Like all of us were always just into weird stuff. Like we just be out here. You see my avatar. Like,
look,
this is how
it's
we
beautiful.
are.
I love it.
But we Jehovah's Witnesses, we be out here. My poor mom. Like, I understand, but that was a lot of point of contention. So it was a lot of, boundary setting in that way. So I guess I'm lucky.
Yes. Princess K, do you feel like you have, or welcome 2 Cents? Welcome back.
Hi, beautiful lady.
How are you doing today? I definitely want to go ahead and co-sign with Tony B. Either you set boundaries or other people will, and that is absolutely true. If you don't set them, somebody else, you'll be following, with somebody else's rules and regulations. What's your perspective, Mrs. 2 Cents, on boundaries or Princess?
So first of all, is my audio okay for you guys?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So I think it's extremely important to set boundaries because, as you guys stated, we take on so many roles that people don't realize that when they interact with us or engage with us, like me, I'm the type of person where I give 100%. So I'm usually exhausted or drained by the time I assist someone else or help someone. So they usually disregard, and it may not be them being selfish. They forget that I have a family. I'm a mother. I'm a wife and I'm a woman. So all of these different roles can take a toll on us. And it is essential for us to steal away us some time to either, I had set it up where at least twice a week, I don't care what anything is going on, I'm going to get in the bathtub and soak for an hour. And don't knock on the bathroom door.
I love
Because
it.
sadly, I usually don't get to be in the bathroom alone. So that's a shame. I have to steal away to get in the bathroom so that I can just have that moment to decompress.
Yes.
But I'm like,
right.
I know you guys love me, but I need a moment. And so for family, I had to start screening calls. So usually the cell phone thing is a headache for me because I used to always be so dependable and accountable that they would call me whenever something happened. If they were having a family crisis, a health issue, I mean, literally everything. Somebody going to jail. Can you come and talk to them? This person is having an outburst. And it was daunting. So I started screening my calls. And before I did, I gave all of them a public service announcement like, hey, I'm going to start, screening calls. So if you call me and if it's not an emergency, if it is an emergency, send me a text message if I don't answer. If it's not an emergency, just give me a moment and I'll get back with you. You don't have to call me several times. And so that's been the past 3 years and it's been working out well. And I noticed that I have less stress and exhaustion. So I have more time, quality time for my kids and my husband and myself without having all that extra.
Yes, I totally. Are you mother? What's your next step?
So I'm getting ready to put this shrimp in here.
I'm
so
sorry,
I wanted to show y'all. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to turn this camera to the back. Forgive me, y'all. I'm so not that tech savvy. So I wanted to show y'all. So now we have the okra and that rendered down sausage in there. So I'm just going to put some tomato sauce in here. I'm actually going to pour 2 cans.
Froze a little bit, but I know it's gonna come back. Y'all
still hear me?
Okay, you putting 2 cans in there.
Can y'all hear me?
You putting 2 cans.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, she can't hear us.
My phone was ringing. I may have to go out and come back in.
Oh, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Princess
look
K,
good.
like, have you had any? I know you spoke about your
Can
mother-in-law,
y'all
but
hear
has
me?
yes.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me? You can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I just can't hear y'all. So I'm gonna go out real quick and come back in.
Okay.
Okay.
Miss Princess
Um,
K.
Relating to setting boundaries, I was the one type that I used to be a people pleaser. That was largely in part because I wasn't in touch with who I am and the
Mhm.
knowledge of myself,
Mhm.
and just very insecure. So,
Mhm.
growing up, I had the hardest time confronting people when they did stuff to me. Now, I would say something if it was something that was like extremely serious, like life threatening almost, and it shouldn't have gotten to that point. But I would not confront the issue because I was so afraid of making someone upset with me.
Mhm.
Um, and after a time, I had to kind of just learn to step out of myself. And this was like on my path to learn to love myself. And around the time I was 20, I was just like, you know what? I suffered a breakdown and I was suicidal. And
Hmm.
around that time, I was just like, you know what? What has it done for me to always exhaust myself trying to please other people instead of actually acknowledging my feelings and me as a whole? So I had to like go into this journey of self where I was just I was improving my relationship with God. I went on this journey where I read the whole Bible. You know, I was just getting in touch with the spiritual more so, and I just found this life slowly just being breathed into me.
Mhm.
And I'm now at the point where if I do have a problem with someone, I will nip it in the bud. If I tell you that you're doing something that's hurting me, and you still continue to do it, then I make the decision based off of context of the situation to distance myself. And it also relates to people who hurt me. And, you know, I honestly admit I'm not at the maturity to forgive at the first second. You know, it takes me some type of um, work processing to get through that. But once I forgive, I have this thing where it's like if you've already shown me your colors and I've given you chance and chance again, and I already chose to forgive you, just because I forgave you, it does not mean that I have to stay close to you. So I can love you from a distance. In terms of setting boundaries, like recently, there was a problem with my sister-in-law. I'll just say that she really likes me as like a younger sister, and I so appreciate that, you know. But it's stuff like her calling like at around 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff like that,
Mhm.
especially because she had a drinking problem.
Mm.
And she's married, she has 2 kids. So she would call me, especially when she was dealing with issues with her husband in the middle of the night and, you know, kind of drunk and everything like that. And I'd go in just to come get the kids because I didn't want them to be around that. And for a second, I wasn't actually telling my fiance because he'd already left. And this really started after he enlisted. I wasn't telling my fiance because I was afraid of causing conflict. I wasn't telling my mother-in-law because I was afraid of stressing her out about her daughter's issues. Then I had to like take a moment to realize, you know what, there's a serious problem going on here. And I can't do this by myself. And as their her as her family, they should know about this if this is what's happening.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I had to like sit down and I had a conversation with my mother-in-law. I told my fiance when I could get into contact with him. He was upset with me because I like held it in for a few months without saying anything. But he was just like, I understand that you don't want to cause conflict, but you are my responsibility. We haven't even officially gotten married yet, but I see you as my household. I have a separate household from my mother and sister. And if they're doing something that is bothering you, I need to know. So I can speak to them and help to mediate that. And so that kind of happened. I talked to my mother-in-law, and now thankfully my sister-in-law is in therapy, and she's gotten a lot better. I just saw her this morning because I had my nephews over the weekend. But
Awesome. That
Your
is
husband,
great.
he did the right thing. I
Yeah.
love, like, I feel like sometimes when it's those types of situations, and I love that the way he approached it, and the way, he made you feel validated and letting you know,
Yeah.
like, hey, you are, my house is like pretty much that you are his biggest priority.
Right.
Outside of what's going on, whether it's family, whether it's whoever. I love the way that he approached that with you. And the way that he, basically set up the scenario for there to be boundaries between you and his family. And so I think that was very loving on his part, the way that he handled the entire situation. So it's so good that you have that, in a spouse, and a soon to be a spouse, that he's already showing, those signs and showing
looking
to
out
you
for her.
that,
yeah,
that he's gonna
because
be
he know
willing
his
to set
family
those
better than
boundaries.
you. So he was like,
Exactly.
look at her
You
on
know,
this stuff
exactly what he
again.
was saying.
Yes.
He's just like,
Awesome.
why didn't you
And
tell
that's one of
me?
the benefits of being married too. That's the benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, secrets are like something that I'm like highly against. Okay, like I just don't believe in them. I do believe in discretion, but I don't believe in secrets, if that makes sense. Like I think some certain things need to be, kind of kept on the low, but when it comes to like breaking generational curses and things like that, you really can't break them if you don't kind of know where they came from, or people aren't like addressing said issues. So, Bubba, can you go into what you're doing next? You added 2 cans and then you added dice.
Yeah, I
And you
added
got
dice.
corn.
So I put in the tomato sauce. I put in 2 cans of that, and then I put in a can of diced tomatoes. And then I put in just 1 can of whole kernel corn. I'm looking for the can so I can show it to y'all. And all of these, it doesn't matter what brand you use, it's all the same. If you notice, most of my stuff is like Great Value or Kroger brand. It's all the same. So I have all this together. So we just gonna let this kind of meld. And again, once I got everything into the pot, I seasoned it with all those same seasonings, because again, we just gonna season this at every layer.
Layer
So
the
that it can be
flavors.
flavored. Yes, it can be flavored all the way out. So this is the same pot where we had that pork fat, and so I just added a little bit of olive oil to it. And I am going to start to saute this shrimp. So I'm just going to put the bowl here on my stove, and I'm just going to do like a couple bunches at a time, because we're not looking for a hard sear. We really just want that heat to like kiss these shrimp, because we're going to put them into our shrimp Creole, and they'll finish cooking it there. Because the thing with shrimp too, or with any seafood, you don't want to overcook it, because if once you start to overcook it, it gets like rubber. And we all know, how that rubber taste is. Nobody likes that. So in this pan, we're just gonna saute.
Is that jumbo or large on the size of the shrimp?
This is extra large, I think.
Extra large. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the extra large, like easy.
I got you, Brie girl. I got you.
Yay! Yeah, it's extra large. And so we're just gonna. So I just have my heat like on medium heat, and we're just gonna again let that fire like really just kind of kiss them when they kind of turn that like opaque pink color. That's how we know they're ready to come out, because again they're gonna kind of finish off in our sauce. So I'm just gonna stir them, and again I did overcrowd the pan because again we're just looking to kiss them. If we were like sauteing these shrimp, for a different meal, I would always say like don't overcrowd the pan. You want to get a nice sear on them, but because we're just trying to kiss these shrimp, it's okay to overcrowd the pan. They'll all cook down, and as we stir them, they'll all start to get their color. And then we're just gonna add them to the sauce. And so in terms of the sauce, I just have it like over here, like kind of simmering away. I have the heat like on medium high heat. And so we're just gonna let these flavors get all meld together. And then we'll put it all together and we'll have the finished product. Some people do eat this like over rice. As we kind of talked about earlier in the show, I'm trying to work on my carbs. So I'm not gonna put it over rice today. But yeah, some people do like serve it over rice, and you can put it with
But for those little
cornbread.
kids, yeah, like for the little kids,
Yeah,
a filling meal would be good for rice for them. 'Cause they're
yeah,
gonna burn that
rice
off
is
anyway.
good for them. Yeah, exactly. But for me, I'm not gonna. And even though I really do like it with rice, I'm trying to in 2022. I'm trying to cut down on the carbs.
Yes, I was
And
about
so
to say
I'm not going
cauliflower
to.
rice or Bree suggested
Yes,
cauliflower rice or brown rice is another
yeah, or even
alternative
brown
too.
rice. You could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for
Oh,
me,
that
I'm
might
not
be.
gonna pair it.
That look
You know,
good.
yeah, I can see this with some cauliflower rice.
Ooh, that looks
Yes,
lit. I'm so hungry.
so we got our shrimp, and so they're like kissed here. Um, and so I'm just
You're
gonna.
gonna
So this is the color that we
transfer.
want.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of want this like opaque, like pink color. Um, and so I'm just gonna pour them into my other pot. Y'all bear with me because I'm trying to. I ain't never did none of this stuff one handed. Over it
You
worked
are
out.
doing
I
it.
ain't spilled nothing.
Don't hurt yourself now.
Girl, I know I ain't spilled nothing. So we got all our shrimp in there, and I
Oh,
poured
that looks
everything in there.
delicious.
Oh
Yeah, the
God.
juice from the shrimp, all of that. And so we just gonna let those flavors kind of meld together, maybe like 2 more minutes. I'm gonna turn the heat down a bit because again, we don't want these shrimp to overcook because then that's when they're gonna have that rubbery taste. But all those flavors are getting all meld together, and so I'll come back to y'all in maybe like 2-3 minutes here and plate it up so I can show y'all
Awesome.
how it looks.
So,
It
question:
looks
do you guys
delicious.
like the quinoa?
Yeah.
I like quinoa.
I couldn't
It's
get
in my
jiggy with it.
pantry. It's in
I
my
use it.
pantry, but I haven't
I
haven't
use it
cooked it.
actually with anytime I do ground beef or ground turkey, I usually add quinoa in it.
Ooh, that
So
is a
with
good
ground
idea.
meat, like any ground meat
That
meals, like
sounds
spaghetti,
good.
chili, anything, I always put quinoa, like 1 part meat, 1 part quinoa. And it works really
Yeah.
well. Then the texture of it don't really, because my kids don't like
Bother.
seeing it.
Oh.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know it's in there half of the time.
Girl, I
So
dice
Yeah,
up
that's fine. I like to mix
zucchini
it.
and all kind of stuff in my like. I'll be hiding all the veggies in there.
I was
mhm.
just gonna
Yeah.
ask. It's a good topic to discuss. How do you guys get your kids to eat? Because my kids are extremely picky, and everybody tells me like, okay, they're gonna go through this stage, but when they become, my son is 12 and my daughter is 8. So the 12-year-old, he's better, but my 8-year-old, the daughter, she is. I mean, one day she may like chicken nuggets, the next day she swears she never liked them.
I think that's normal because my kids be doing that.
Yeah.
I think I started at my toddler. She's a pretty good eater. I made her baby food. And so I would make what we already ate. So I think that helped a lot. I mean, I know they're older, but that helped a lot with her because she was used to those flavors and stuff. I would portion out her part before I put the salt in and blend it up. So she got used to the flavors. As far as my oldest, I mean, my kids are pretty good eaters. I think sometimes when we're making new stuff, what helps is letting them help, like the older girl, she's like 12, letting her
Yes.
help cook it. Because if you cook it, you kind of have to taste it as the chef. So it's like, okay, she'd be more willing to try it if she had a part in cooking it. So that helps sometimes.
Yeah. And like you said, kind of hiding it, and different things. So sometimes like for with their dessert, like I'm usually able to get in like a lot of fruit there. Like sometimes we'll make like ice cream, like homemade ice cream, and I put all kind of stuff. I put like peaches. Sometimes I can get like celery and those kind of things and like just blend it up. And when you mix it with a sweeter flavor, like they can't even tell that it's there. So I do that a lot sometimes, like with their desserts. And then my kids are little, so I'm able to do kind of some of those tricks, like the ants on a log, with the celery stick, and put the peanut butter in, and put the raisins on top. So
Yeah.
and they eat the celery. They love it because it's all part of it's the ants on the log. And I'm like, oh, you eat the log. And
That's so cute.
I've been able to.
How old are your
those
babies, Miss Toussaint? How old are they?
So my son is 12 and my daughter, she's 8.
8. Okay.
Oh, yeah, they're probably
one of the ladies in one of my mommy groups, she suggested like a Friday. I don't know. It might have been an article too that I read. I don't know. But what she did was like a Friday night like taste. So they would pick things that they never tried before, and then they would like try it out. So it's just like not try it out Tuesday, but whatever you want to name it. But it's just like how to introduce them into different palettes or different things. Like my daughter, she's 2, but she can eat. She don't discriminate, and I did make her food when she was little. So
yeah,
she eats sushi, she eats fish. I'm allergic to fish, but I make sure I introduced it to her because I want her to be able to eat stuff that I would normally eat.
And I was gonna say, I think that's age appropriate as well for an 8-year-old, because my middle child is 8, and she turned her nose up. It's stuff she liked, she don't like no more. And taste buds change every 7 years, they say. So I kind of just ride with it and be like, okay, she just crossed the 7-year threshold, so she brand new now. So she might not actually like some of the stuff she used to like. I just take her word for it. But we always strike a bargain. I say you got to at least taste one bite, taste 1 or 2 bites of the food, and I always let them bargain. Okay, well, if you don't eat all of that, you got to eat all of this. Or I do allow my kids to have 2 opt-out meals a week, and it's peanut butter and jelly.
That's nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, they I always can get, because it's just some stuff. My oldest, she just really don't like some stuff, but I'm not gonna not cook it because she don't like it. So she can opt out twice a week with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but that's it. You can't opt out every day. So
see, that's a good compromise. I like it. I think I'm gonna have to try. I'm gonna have to seal that, the opt out.
Yeah, we'll make it yourself.
I have one that's allergic to dairy, and so sometimes it's different. And so all he wants to eat is peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And so sometimes it's difficult, like to navigate, him and like different things that he can have. A lot of desserts he can't have. And he's not much of like a vegetable eater. He's somewhat picky. So I have to get like really creative with him, because if it was up to him, all he'll eat is chicken nuggets and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But so he's one that I really have to like get creative with. He does like soups. So I've been able to get like a lot of vegetables, into the soup, because for some reason he really, I don't know if it's like the, because it's high
softness or
and he feels like a big boy, like blowing his soup and kind of all those things. So I don't know what it is, but he likes soup. So I've been able to get like a lot of vegetables into the soups, and so that's kind of how I help him a bit. And for a while he had like he didn't really like meat too much. And so we had to do like a lot of beans, a lot of those things to kind of, get.
So is he vegan?
Protein.
Is he vegetarian?
I think he wanted to be a little vegan.
Plant-based. There you go. Plant-based.
Yeah, I think, but that was the problem. He didn't like no vegetables or nothing.
Oh,
it was like,
I missed that part.
Yeah, he didn't like that. So he's starting to come around to it. Like I said, the soup thing is somewhat new. So we've been able to get like a lot of vegetables, in that way. But we had like a tough time with him because of, the whole dairy allergy. And, the options were already limited. And then he's a picky eater too. So it was just difficult. But the soup kind of works pretty well. And then like I say, I do those. Yeah, even sauces, y'all. He likes anything that's kind of has like that soupy texture. So that's all been like really helpful.
And I mean, you have all the different mouths at your house. They have like all these different personalities.
Yes.
So Mother has what, 6?
5 here, 5. And I have 3 bonus. I have 3 bonuses, and they're all boys. So 7 boys. So when everybody's here, it's like crazy. So like
Ooh, how you keep
this
food?
recipe, oh yeah, so we never have leftovers. So like this recipe I made today, I would literally have to make like that times like 4 because it's just never, it's never any leftovers. It's so funny. So the last time my oldest bonus baby was here, so he plays football for Texas Tech College. So he's 300 pounds, 6'3". And he eats just like, and it was so funny. So me and my husband were in the kitchen. We had gone out to dinner the day before, and I had my leftovers. And so I'm like, has anybody seen my fried? Like, did you clean out the refrigerator? Because my husband's notorious for that. Like, throw my stuff away. I'm like, did you see my fried fish? And so TJ was like, no, actually, I ate that. And so then I had some other food because I had been at work. I had a lunch from work, and I think it was like shrimp fried rice. And I was like, well, what about the shrimp fried rice? He's like, oh, I ate that too. Like it's like a tank.
And you got men in your house.
Yes.
That's like, I know your grocery bill is crazy. Like I can't
like,
even imagine.
Yeah, when everybody's here, it's like, so I usually have to cook things like I'll cook gumbo a lot, so they love gumbo. So I'll cook like big, huge pot of gumbo, and that's like the only thing that we may have like some leftovers with. So I usually cook like either a shrimp creole, or I'll cook gumbo, or I'll cook like red beans, like things that can kind of stretch a long way because it's just so much.
Ooh,
Lord,
what is your next step? Where are you at with your?
We ready to play it actually, y'all.
Okay, awesome.
I wanted to show y'all though what it looks like in the pot. So everything is all rendered down. Everything has all melded together. So I'm just gonna plate it. I have my bowl out here, so I'm just gonna plate it, and I will show you guys what the finished product looks like in just 1 second.
It looks good.
It's so easy too. It's
I mean, the way you put it together made it so like it wasn't.
Yeah, it's super easy. Like this can easily, like I easily make this like on a weeknight. And then like I said, sometimes I will like put it with the rice, particularly for the kids, but I'm trying to cut down on the carbs. Like you were saying, after having kids. And so my thing, for me, that's difficult. Like after pregnancy and having kids, of course during pregnancy, like you indulge. And I don't know if this is like a step of my anxiety. I don't like change. And so it takes me literally like almost 6 months or so to get out of the habit of eating the way that I was eating while I was pregnant. So I almost have to do like, and it's a mindset thing. Like I almost have to really like change my mindset and stop indulging, almost every day. And eating extra the way I was during the pregnancy. So now, coming off of eating that way. So I am trying to like cut some carbs.
I mean, carbs are good. I think with me right now, like I'm most of my stuff right now is plant-based, but I'm gonna incorporate, like I give my body breaks from like meat to kind of just get my life together. Spiritually as well. What'd you say, Bree?
I was gonna say I do intermittent fasting. I had to start doing it when I became a night shift nurse because I actually had GERD from I was in Seattle and I wouldn't see the sun for like 3 weeks. I mean, because I was working nights and the sun goes down so early up there in the wintertime. So like in the month of November, I literally would not see the sun, and I think I was getting like GERD, like digestive problems and stuff. And so I had to switch over to intermittent fasting while I was working night shift, and I still do it to this day, just because it keeps the bloating down or any kind of pandemic weight gain and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I do.
Oh,
yeah, that freshman 15 from
it's
the
real.
pandemic.
It is. It's so real.
Yeah,
I had my baby before the pandemic, and before that, like I lost 60 pounds before I had my daughter, and I was like, okay, snatched, okay, like I just the healthiest I had ever been as an adult.
See, that's why your husband got you pregnant.
Yep, that's when you get pregnant every time.
You think you're gonna be out here like that?
Every time. I think they do it on purpose.
You got me confused. Let me give you something to sit you down.
I think they do it on purpose. That happens every time. I be
Right,
scared to
they
get in
do.
shape. I be scared to get in shape like that. Like the best shape of my life. I be
Yeah.
scared because I think I'm gonna get pregnant.
Girl, he gonna drop that baby on you.
And that's why I'm like, okay, so we're discussing that, you know, are we gonna do that or have another child? And I'm like, Lord, I gotta get some weight off this current body in order to, you know, right, Tommy? Okay, he took all my hot summers away, and I just feel
Yeah,
like he could have
that's
really.
what they do. That's what
They do it on
I'm telling
purpose.
you.
They do it on purpose. I know it.
I'm trying to. That's what they do. I'm telling you, I was pregnant for almost 5 years straight.
Oh my
guess
gosh,
husband
yes.
said, look, like you doing, And this pandemic one really got me. So after my other pregnancies, and it's probably a combination of age and the pandemic. So I used to like snap back. Like I would literally have them babies, and like you gonna look like on my social media like the next week, and I would be so proud of it. I be posting like, yeah, just had a baby last week. I was so proud of it because I would literally like snap back into shape. This was the first pregnancy, but this is my first girl pregnancy too. And I keep hearing that with girl pregnancies, you just tend to keep the weight. This was the first time I had to have a C-section. So,
Oh yeah, that makes it harder too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very hard. And then with the pandemic, so I had gained 30 pounds before I got pregnant. And I think it was probably just COVID weight. Like I'm working from home and the kitchen is right there and I've been cooking up everything and eating everything. And so I think that really made it like difficult. So I had that 30 pounds. And then during my pregnancy, I gained like about 45 pounds. And so now it was like, so now I got 75 pounds. And so it was just hard. And like I said, the weight didn't come off like at all. So, and I had a big baby. So she was 9 pounds and 4 ounces.
Ooh,
So she was
Lord,
a big baby.
mercy.
It was just, I was just eating everything. Yeah, it was all just. And so this has been like the first time that I've, like really struggled with like losing weight, after pregnancy. And so I had 75 pounds. So when I had the baby, at that time, I think I ended up being like 55. I was still like 55 to 60 pounds over.
Girl, I gained 20 extra pounds while breastfeeding.
Yeah, and see,
how we do that? I don't know.
Because it was in the pandemic. It was in the pandemic. That's
no, like I had my baby 2019 in the fall, and so that next year, like I was breastfeeding. I have gained that weight, then I gained additional 20 after, and so I'm like, this supposed to help. This did not help, and I was very conscious about like I worked out all the way up until like month 4, and then because I'm trying to maintain, and it just really for my body, it just wasn't realistic for me to maintain my workout schedule for like, because my body couldn't take. I ended up being on bed rest, so like I couldn't maintain it, and I was like, I hope men like understand that that is not everybody's story. Like be patient.
And they say, they say you shouldn't let your heart rate get over like 140. When you're pregnant I got on the treadmill and took a few steps and I was already at 140. I said, this for the birds. I'll catch up with y'all after I had this baby because this is dumb. And I was working out before, I got pregnant. So you get out of breath really fast. And I'm like, if I can't go over 140, I'm just walking on this treadmill. I'll stay home.
Child, I was trying to throw weights. I was still trying to, I was still trying to cling and press and do all of that. You muted, mother.
I remember you were still like working out while you was pregnant.
Yes, you couldn't even tell I was pregnant till I hit month 6. That's when I started showing.
And I was thinking like, your hands, see?
No.
I was wrong. I was loud and wrong.
She said I was wrong.
I'll take full advantage when I be pregnant. I ain't working out.
No.
I'm eating everything that I want to eat. Yeah, I just wild out. So I'm one of them people that, and not.
You talking about you got to eat for 2, and I'm like, but the nutritionist said you only need to eat additional 400 calories. So that's me, like, okay, one granola bar.
Oh,
like
no.
I remember you said like, oh, I'm gonna make me an adult Lunchable. I remember you saying that.
Girl, it was delicious.
And you had like some meats, but you had your fruits and vegetables and stuff. And I just remember like, wow.
I was still trying. I was holding on.
You did really good. You did really good.
Trying. You better than me. I'd be like, y'all don't get this postpartum body.
I will wild out. Yes, I wild. But see, this is my first time having to pay for it. So all the other times, like I would wild out like that, and then I would have the babies, and the weight would come off, and like it would be fine. But this time,
This
and
baby
that's
said suck it
C-section.
to you.
Yeah, I guess it's the girls, but I had
Now
to
that's
take
girls,
this
because
girl.
they steal your beauty essence, just by nature.
Clearly.
So they try
Yes.
they come into the world showing you what's up. They gon'
Like,
That's
That's what they do.
Because I have a
You pay
daughter.
for her.
And
Yeah, I
That's
had
rude.
to pay for her. Because
I
those
had
boys, I mean, it was
you got
just
3,
right
Bree?
on.
Ooh.
well, I have 2 that I birthed, and then my bonus baby, but she's always considered one of mine. But yeah, I birthed
Yeah.
2 of them, but they were like 8 years apart. 'Cause
Oh,
I couldn't
girl.
do it. Yeah, I couldn't do it. When I had the first one, I was like, I don't want to have another child for 10 years. Don't even say nothing to me. Like, I can't. I need time to really. And girls, I just feel like, because she's 12 and the youngest is 3. So I was just like, I can't. I was so happy to have a bonus baby because I can't.
That
I
was
need
less
to
kids.
really just
Yeah.
I just need one at a time. Like, I need to walk you through this toddler phase by
Yeah.
yourself. And then
That's where I'm at, y'all.
Yeah, bare
I'm glad I
minimum,
can.
not until you 4. Like bare minimum 4 years apart, I feel like.
And
for
see, I
me.
made husband wait 5 years because I wanted us to be married for 5 years before we had kids. I was like, I don't know about
perfect.
this magic number, but I was like, let's just work on us before we have
Yeah.
kids. I was pretty young, but now I'm like, okay, we hitting in our mid 30s, so like, what we gonna do? And I'm like, I can't even afford to wait as long. So like, to me, that's a mental trip. I'm just being honest. I'm like, I'm struggling with deciding if that's what I want to do. I think he was supportive, but I'm really, really struggling. Like, do I want to have another kid? Am I mentally capable of handling another one and balancing work? Like, it's
I
a
think
lot.
that's real because I definitely cried and I was just like, "That's 3 years of my life gone." My husband like, "Girl, what's wrong with you? You ain't gonna understand. We have this baby, and I know she was playing, but 3 years.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm
Yeah.
gone. 3 years. Say goodbye to me. I don't know who I'm
Right.
gonna be, and it's not gonna be me, and it's gonna suck." And I'm just like crying because
Like
I
your
already
first
knew.
year, that baby, shoot, like there's no difference between you and that child. Like, y'all are
There's
glued
not.
together for at least
Yeah.
that first
Yeah.
year or two.
I'm
Child,
just
I'm
now
just-
getting back to myself.
But
And my
if
toddler's
you
okay.
have more, I think we're stronger than we think. Because that happened to me, and honestly, so the last 2 were like surprise babies. So, we had the first one, he's 9 now, and then so my husband was deployed. So that's probably the only reason that them 2 are that spaced out. So they're like 22, like barely almost 2 years apart.
Tony
And
wasn't
so-
playing.
He wasn't playing. So as soon as he got back, baby, I guess I was looking too good.
It's
So
all
he
them
was
care
like,
packages.
Girl,
Okay.
I guess so, baby.
He was like, let
ready.
me smell them panties in person.
I'm trying to, girl, I probably got pregnant that week he got back. So that's how they ended up being like, almost 2 years apart. But then after that, the last 2 were surprise babies. And both of those, so the first set, they're right at 1 year apart, so right at 12 months. And then the second one, they're 13 months apart. And both of them were like surprise babies. And so I was thinking the same thing, like,
Mother,
oh my
them
God.
kids is not surprising.
She said they both
Baby,
were
they was
surprised.
surprised. so let me tell y'all what happened with the third one. So I, at the time, had 2 kids, so I didn't have time. Well, I should say I didn't have time, but you're supposed to go to your 6 weeks appointment. I had a lot going on, and I think I've shared with y'all in the past, like staying at home, it wasn't for me. So I went back to work. I think in like 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. So anyway, I missed my 6 week checkup. I went back at like 8 weeks or 10 weeks. And when I went to that checkup, that's when they told me I was pregnant.
Wait, so
So-
y'all didn't listen to nothing, no hanky panky for
Nothing.
6 weeks? Y'all didn't listen to
Nothing.
that, did y'all? Because your
no,
cervix open.
child.
That's
No,
like letting
that-
everybody in the club.
Girl, well, baby, everybody ran up in there, honey, and shot the club up.
Shot the club
baby,
up.
Baby, shot it up. Shot it up. Because then people said, I was like, oh no, I just had a baby. That must be left from last time. And they were like, no, ma'am, it don't work like that. Like, you're pregnant. Like, you're going to be happy. So that's what happened with that one. And then it was kind of like the same scenario. It was similar to the same scenario with the fourth one. You would have thought we would have learned, but yeah. So it was, at one time we had 3 in diapers. Like, it was just crazy.
Ooh.
So
Tommy B said nobody don't listen to that room. Some people do. But go ahead.
I listen.
I was
Because look,
not
let me tell you-
interested.
Let me tell you, the
I
first
didn't
thing on
listen
my
to
list,
it.
I was like, hey, about that birth control. What's up? Run me that BC real quick. I wasn't playing like there are no accidents over here. So if I got pregnant, it was on purpose. I've been on birth control for like a decade. Like I do not play because I'm so serious about not bringing children in the world until I'm really like ready.
Yeah.
So you know, like that's just so much.
I don't play that. Don't look at me till I get my Mirena in. I mean my Paragard in. Don't even touch me till we go to this appointment, get that Paragard in. I can't take hormonal birth control. So, you know, I had to get the Paragard.
Yeah, I struggled with that too, and like finding the right type of birth control. So I wasn't like in such a hurry to go do it. I think after that fourth one, that kind of sobered me up. Like, okay,
four,
yeah,
woo.
yes, like but to my point, like we're strong with everything because I felt like, oh my god, like I thought I was dying with two, and then the third one happened. I think as women, that's just what we do. You know, you get put in a situation and we figure it out. And you know, it was hard, but I mean, we worked it out. You know,
you have to scrape me up
how
off the
you
floor.
love being a mom. Like I love your honesty on that, but that is not a woman thing. Because I know they like to label us that way, but you know,
I had to be scraped up off the floor. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm just saying, like, if y'all were put in that situation, like you'd figure it out. I know it seems like
yes,
okay,
yeah.
So that's what I'm meaning. Like, yeah, if you get put in that situation, you'll figure it out and you'll make it happen. Even though it feels like, oh, I wouldn't be able to do that, I couldn't do it. You'll make it. You would make it happen. You would make it happen.
She said, I'm not even playing with you.
I don't want to have to figure out. Like I'm at this point where like we got a schedule, and I was like, dang, I'm just now getting a little bit of sleep, and then one-offs where she's 2 and she's waking up in the middle of the night and she's screaming, "Mama!" and I'm like.
That's why you need to just go ahead and give her a sibling so they could be close.
That's why I was like, you know what? I'm in a tough phase between like. Do I have another kid to keep her company or because I'm tired of getting told sit down and play with blocks. Okay, I'm tired of getting sit down, mommy. Like I'm tired of that.
See, I told Esther that, child, when you get to that, child, I don't have to entertain these kids. They entertain each other all day. Babe, I couldn't even imagine having one now. Be all in my face, and now I gotta entertain them. Like they entertain each other.
Mind your business. Just no.
I mean, well, see, I did the opposite. I waited a long time, but the benefit of that is she's like they sisters, but she takes care of her. Like that's her baby. I wish y'all would whoop this 3-year-old. She coming in and ask you why she got it, and did she deserve that whooping? That's her talking about her sister. I don't think she deserved that whooping. I don't think she deserved. You know, when my mom because we don't really even whoop our kids, and when I say whoop, I'm talking about little pop.
Little pop.
She was like little like
redirection.
And she bit somebody. You done bit somebody. You getting a pop because I say violence begets violence. So that's the only situation I feel like it's acceptable. So she done bit somebody. She told myself, I just don't think. I feel that was extreme. And no, you cannot bite people, you know. So she's sitting there arguing with us about why we popped the baby because she bit somebody. So that's her baby. So that's a good thing about the big gap. Yeah.
So did you plate it up already, mother?
I did, girl. I'm sitting here talking through, but I got it right here in front of me. So that's how it looked plated up. And y'all know.
Can you like take a bite for me? Because I got like 10 more days.
You know what? I gotta take a bite. I'm gonna sprinkle this
take
parsley.
a bite. Let us know.
Let me live through you now.
Yeah.
So let me grab this spoon.
Oh, you gotta put the parsley on top. Yes, it's not done.
Parsley. Child, y'all know I'm Creole. We gotta put parsley on everything, child. I put it on my eggs. I'm sprinkling parsley on everything. So I'm gonna go take me a nice little bite. Give me some of that rendered sausage. Make sure I get some okra on it. Get a little full balanced out bite.
Yeah, come back for the shrimp. It's okay. Yeah.
You're right. Y'all gonna have to come back for it because I think I ain't trying to embarrass myself on camera. So I ain't gonna take the shrimp. Right here, I'm turning around. So that's how it looks.
Oh, that looks good.
It's hot too. I tried to get a good balance. The only thing I don't got on there is the shrimp. Oh. It's still hot though. It's so good though. It's so good.
Oh, that looks so good.
I'm gonna try that when I'm definitely gonna try that.
It is so good. Yes. See, and it's not, I mean, you know, you have a little tomato sauce in here, but you could definitely make this like keto friendly. Like if someone's doing keto, like you could substitute the tomato sauce. maybe for something different, even if you wanted to do like maybe like a broth or
Yeah, like a
something like
veggie
that.
broth instead.
Yeah, like a veggie broth. Yeah, and I'm sure it would still, taste good. Let me get my spoon all out the camera. But yeah, like the okra, the shrimp, the sauce. So you could definitely really easily make this keto friendly. Of course, leave the corn out, but it would still have those same flavors.
Oh, that's so good. I'm gonna try that.
Yeah, I
I'm
found
gonna
out
have to
that
let you know
corn.
how it go.
Yeah. We
Yes.
definitely have to
And
post
like I
and
said, a
tag
lot
you.
of people, for kids and that kind of stuff, you could definitely put like rice with this. Because a lot of times I will put rice, but I'm again cutting down on the carbs. But it tastes really good with rice, and that kind of stretches it too. So when I have all the boys at the house, I definitely cook a big pot of rice. And it goes a long way. Because, they basically just put in the sauce like over the rice. But
I have a
it's
question.
really
Did you
good.
use frozen shrimp or fresh?
I use fresh.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying. I go, well, so let me clarify that. So it was frozen in my freezer, but it was fresh shrimp.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I don't like, so most of the frozen shrimp that's sold in the store is like farm raised shrimp. And
Yeah.
I don't like those. To me, they don't have a taste. So
I agree.
thankfully, we live in Houston, and we're pretty close to the Gulf. So there's like fish shops that are towards Galveston. That's like about 45 minutes to an hour from us. So we usually go like a couple times a year, and we'll get like 50, 60 pounds of shrimp. And we just bring it home and bag it up and put it in the freezer.
Exactly.
So that's why it
Okay.
was frozen, in my
Right.
freezer. So I just thawed it and peeled it, and the flavor of those Gulf shrimp, like, oh my
Oh,
goodness.
it's so good.
Yeah, it's like no other. And it really enhances like your dish. And like I said, they don't even take much marinating. Those same seasonings that we were using throughout, I just sprinkle those on there after I finished peeling them and while we were talking. It doesn't take shrimp long to marinate, 15, 20 minutes at the most. And so they're so flavorful. And because we seasoned like this dish at like every layer, the flavor is just like, it just hits you in the face. It's so good. It's not overpowering. You can still taste the vegetables, you can still taste the okra, but like the flavor is like spot on. So it's
Awesome.
So I hope
It
y'all
looks
try it.
delicious.
If y'all try it, please let me know. Please tag us in it. We would love to, see how it went. And if you have some variations, definitely if you have a healthier version that you're going to be making, let us know what you use. And we would love to highlight that. But like I said, you can definitely make this like keto friendly. And then Brianna and Estat were saying how you could use like maybe some cauliflower rice, or you could use some brown rice would be really
So
good.
you can use vegan sausage. So they have
Yes.
vegan sausages, and they also have like vegan shrimp. So you
Yeah.
can do a couple of different substitutions for
Yeah.
the particular protein ingredients that's on there.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. So I wanted to thank Bree and Princess K for coming up and sharing their experiences and about boundaries and physical health and wellness. So to close everything out today, she made shrimp Creole. It was looks delicious, and we'll definitely be making sure that we make sure that we are showing recipes. And like my journey right now is like I'm plant-based right now. So yes. Oh, there I am. Okay. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to Mother. What is your handle for your cooking? On
So
Facebook?
right now, yeah, it's just on Facebook. It's Cooking with Mother and her kids. So yeah, if you search that on Facebook, be sure to go there and like, and we do live sometimes. Right now, we're probably going to be combining it with our platform here. But definitely, I still post recipes and that sort of thing over there. So everybody's welcome to go and follow me there. But we will be here kind of alternating out and doing different recipes. So give us y'all's feedback. If there are any requests that you guys have, definitely let us know and we can make that on camera. My background, my heritage and culture is like Creole and Cajun. So I tend to make more of those sort of dishes, but I do make like a wide range of things. So if you have any requests on anything, just shoot it to us in the comments, and we'd be happy to make that with you guys on camera. And let us know your feedback too on, even doing the cooking and doing the tutorials. We definitely want like some constructive criticism on camera views, on the angles, on the flow of the show, kind of all those things. So feel free to kind of comment those things too.
Absolutely. And Bree, could you share your handle, and also Princess K, if you have a platform that you'd like to share?
Yes, so I have a platform. It's Kawaii Bree, Kawaii Bree 123. And I talk about anime on Sundays, movies on Mondays, and we do like TV recaps and reviews on Thursdays at 3 p.m. all the time. So that's what I do.
Awesome. And she has a line, right? Clothing line?
I do. I have a website, kawaiifortheculture.com. And I make clothes that's inspired by like anime, but with black features to like kind of celebrate our uniqueness as Black women in a kawaii or anime art form.
And Princess Kate?
I don't really have a channel. I am considering it once my fiance comes back. It's something to talk about blending our cultures, but I just want to say I'm very grateful to have participated in this channel, and I'm on this channel for the first time, and also meet I know Bree from another panel, but to meet both of you wonderful ladies, I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm gonna check out Mava on her channel for those cooking recipes, because my family is from Louisiana. So I'm just like, I'm always looking to find new recipes and such. So I'm glad to be here and grateful to God for you both.
Thank you, Princess. That's so sweet.
Glad to have you.
Yes, thank you for coming up and showing us that intercultural, all of that awareness, because that's something that we don't know about and we can't speak to. So thank you for sharing your perspective today. Really, really
and your transparency. You were so honest about everything. And I'm sure what you shared today was a testimony for someone.
Yes,
because you were really transparent about everything.
Validated. Yeah.
So we're so glad to have you here.
I hope so. I'm like, for anyone listening, just push through and pray. If you don't have God, you do have common sense. So, if we know ourselves enough, we can follow our instincts and know how to work from there. But yeah.
Exactly. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, I've enjoyed my time with you ladies.
Yeah, absolutely. So my handle is s.fitfashion. You can find me on Instagram right now, and I am working on some ideas as far as juicing, any health and wellness. My background is I do work in corporate America, but I do plus size modeling on the side. So if you got a cute boutique that you would like me to showcase, make sure that you hit me up in a DM or something like that. If there's a brand or something that you're interested in and sharing. If you are a Black-owned business, women, whatever, make sure that you're hitting me in my DM, because I want to start showcasing Black-owned businesses with women and highlighting what you have to offer and things like that. So we just want to make sure that this is a platform that supports Black women empowerment. So once again, we want to thank you guys for showing up and showing out and communicating and talking to us. And we do thank you. Next week will be around 12:30 Central Standard Time. Until then, thank you for winding down with Real Women with Mava and S. Dot. Y'all take care.
Bye. Have a good week, everybody. Love and blessings.